Alright, what is up, people? My name is Speedy. Welcome to NotSoSpeedRuns. We are here with Blades in the Dark 6 and 20 Phantom Crew. We are here with our second episode of Season 2. Welcome, one and all. Good to see all you people here hanging out in chat, ready to go. Let's go ahead and jump right into things. Let's get started by going around to our cast and crew, asking them who they are and what they're doing here and all that lovely stuff. Starting, as we always do, with the wonderful Trendane.
Why is that funny?
About? It's the highlight of the stream to hear you bitch about it. Hear me bitch about what? Being the first. You always have something interesting to say. Stop looking at me, the two of you. Stop it now. Hi, I'm first. And apparently, listening to me bitch about always being first is amusing. To him. The rest of us find his amusement amusing, but we're not so much amused by the fact that I apparently always bitch about being first. I don't always bitch about being whatever. You always complain about it. I don't always complain. That's an absolution. And there are no absolutes no, there are no absolutes in the universe, which I understand, I recognize is an absolute to say that. Whatever. Hi, Trendane. I'm a professional voice actor who does a lot of my work on this channel and that other channel that I'm on occasionally. In the next 2 days, I will be over at Arvin Elleron's channel, where we'll be playing D&D, and oh god, tomorrow is our vocalists, where we are continuing this awful game. I mean, Phoenix Wright is not an awful game, but having to do the voices of the characters, especially when one of them is, and I do not use this word lightly, I mean, holy shit, is this guy gay? It is like this 400-pound guy who thinks he's a French chef, apparently in Japan or something, and he's got gold trim and roses everywhere, and he is doing this, both of us, doing this awful French accent that, I apologize for this. Hola is Spanish, whatever. Oh, mais oui! That kind of thing. The whole way through. And I think I just gagged myself a little bit, which is challenging. I will tell you that right now. You can't start cackling. I'm just about to drop it to you. By that I mean, drop the ball, not my testicles descending down on her head. I mean, drop. You ready? No, wait.
Oh my god.
So Hi, I'm Madam Gandalf and I'm dead. It's good. You used to be able to catch me everywhere as Madam Gandalf, but I don't think I exist anymore. So I play Ari. She probably will also die at some point. Let's just be real here. And yeah, on to you, Joff.
Thanks, Alex. Oh god. There's no point following Trendane. There's just no point.
Bitch at that guy over there. He's the one that always makes me go first.
I'm sorry, it's just to make sense logically.
This is the northern hemisphere. You could go counterclockwise. It's fine.
No.
It's the Coriolis effect.
No, sorry.
Whatever.
Hi, my name is Joff. You can find me on here we go. You can find me on Twitter and Twitch as Owlbare. That's bear, as in not as in, where I will talk about, I don't know, boxes of things, many things, and also tea and toast and mental health. And sometimes on Twitch, I will share my creative process. And yeah, I play Grin, and Grin is currently making lots of bad life choices, and he's going to pay for that, maybe today. Okay, thanks, Speedy.
On to Lupo. Oh.
Yeah, unfortunately, Louise is currently still dead, has not yet been brought back as a ghost and put into the mechanical body of a hull yet. So in the meantime, we just have this lovely photo of her character, Sling, and a dog that Hocus is currently holding.
Yeah.
Yes, excellent. The dire pug. But I am Speedy, and this is my
sorry.
channel, and I am playing as Sky, the spider, the evil criminal mastermind who has been determined to destroy the entire city of Duskfall by any means necessary, and has been less than successful so far.
It's a long goal. It's
It's a long goal. You know, we're making progress.
It's the
Yes.
long
You
con.
could say it's a long con. Really, I'm trying to save Duskfall.
This whole season is one score.
We're gonna find
I would like the XP for multiple, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is me, and from that, I will turn things over to Johnny, our DM, to talk about himself, and then bring us into the game that we are playing today.
I'm just going to jump right into it and not even go with an introduction, because I have to jump back to something you just said, which is your plot, your plan, your desire to destroy the city. I was in a conversation after last night's show with 3 out of the 4 folks around the table from the Shroud, and man, they had a couple of doozies, and they didn't even realize that they were talking about destroying the city when they were talking about their plan. I think that you guys need to get together and coordinate on this. I'm telling you.
Nah,
together.
I'd rather.
Nah.
You're just saying that. You're just saying that because you think it would be like easier for you if we worked together than against each other.
No. Their idea, their plan last night was so good, and they didn't even realize how good it was. I had to hold my tongue. I had to go. I had to back off essentially. Anyways, but yeah, so plans within plans within plans. All right, escape from. That's right. You agreed to.
No.
Yes.
No.
We have there's a technicality.
What did you do then?
Samandra agreed.
Right.
Yeah.
Who was
You went along with it.
voiced by Madame Gandalf, but still Samandra, not us.
Yep. Not us.
All right. Samandra made a deal that you would not commit any violence, and that you would go along with them for your safety, and they would not take your weapons, and they would take you from the garrison that was at the breach in the lightning barrier. And so what did you do subsequently? You took over the cart because you were in the last cart. You killed 3 out of the 4 people there. And then you kind of moved off into the side into the Radiant Farms, where you are now kind of like 100 feet into one of the rows of the Radiant Farm. And you have yourself an Imperial issue cart. It's not a very good cart, but it's a cart with 3 dead bodies, and one soldier currently being held down by the weight of another body. And Grin is kind of looking at him going, So, what do you guys do?
I know exactly what Hocus wants to do.
Right?
Peace
Big
out.
surprise that I would know what Hocus wants to do. I know it's crazy, but
I'm actually really surprised myself. I never know what I'm going to do, so
I know.
that's a big thing.
Maybe we start with a little metagaming and we just swear lots.
Well, actually,
Bugger.
Heck.
Bugger. Bugger.
Bugger it. Bollocks and bugger.
Okay.
No.
It's your idea. You just remember that.
You said it. You.
I can't say anything. I'm just.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not going to mention her on stream, but yeah, you know what I'm thinking right now, buddy. Anyways.
So anyway,
All right. You guys are at a perfect point to take a second and actually step back and kind of figure out what you're going to do. You're in a safe spot. You made sure of that at the end of the last session, right? So now it's a matter of, what are you doing next?
So Hocus is going to lean into the field of view of this guy being held down by Grin. And this is not what a spirit bottle looks like, but I'm using this as a prop. And so he brings this spirit bottle into the field, and it's full, but he brings this spirit bottle into the view of this guy and says, "You know what this is, yes?"
He shakes his head.
This, and it's just glowing. This is the spirit of something that once was a person and longs again to be. Either you play nice, or you will drink the full draft. Do I make myself clear?
And he was struggling to get up around the body, and at this point he just kind of accepts, and the blood is continuing to trickle from the body that's on top of him, and so he just kind of acquiesces to your threat, and doesn't, and just kind of, his eyes are darting around.
Very wise. Now remain calm, and I give you my word over all these others. No harm will come to you.
Maybe a little.
No harm will come to him.
I have a question for Speedy.
Mm-hmm.
Has Sky reloaded his pistol yet? Because I assume it's a one-shot.
Yes. Gonna go with yes.
Okay. Excellent. All right, guys. You got the soldier is acquiescing to the moment. 3 dead bodies. Hocus, you've just convinced him to not make a move at all. You also know that the 3 spirits from the 3 bodies around you are also starting to rise. You also know that you're in.
Seems awfully fast.
Well, the process takes about 24 hours, remember? But the process does start immediately.
Yes.
You also know that you're in a radiant farm, and that infused around you is all the spectral energy and the stuff. There are opportunities to capitalize on that. So,
and it will also help to hide us.
For the moment, yeah. But there's also things in the radiant farm, I'm sure that you're aware, that might be looking for you too.
Maybe.
Okay, guys. So I'm going to put the question back to you again. What are you doing?
We need to get somewhere safe.
And where exactly would that be? We've kind of burnt all our bridges here. Quite literally in some cases.
There's not exactly a safe hideout for us now. We need a new one. I think that's got to be our top priorities. Well, we got to ditch what we have here, this cart. It's useful in the meantime to let us blend in, but it won't last long.
Looking at the guard here. Which district are you from?
I'm stationed in White Crown.
But where are you from?
Char Hollow.
Do you know of any place between here and there where we might hide from your compatriots successfully?
I don't understand. You agreed. We were taking you to White Crown.
I agreed to nothing.
You killed my friends. We were trying to help.
Yes, you were. As were we when we started. Do you know what our situation is? Did they tell you?
No.
May I?
He thinks about it for a second, and there's something that plays over his face as he's thinking about it. I mean, it's a quick sort of dance of emotions, and his face contorts and changes a little bit, and you realize that he's struggling with the desire to be loyal to the people that were around him who were just murdered versus saving his own life. I mean, and the soldier is pretty young. He's probably 20 or 21, so he still has a lot of energy and not a lot of experience. But finally, after a second of just playing with the struggle in his head, He just shakes his head and looks at you expectantly.
Shakes his head or nods. You have
He shakes his head.
Okay,
So he's like he's
for me,
acknowledging
this is
yes.
nod and this is shake for me. So
All right, he nods his head.
okay, thank
He
you.
nods his head.
Thank you. That's just something that seems to be unique to you that I have never seen anyone else do, and it always throws me off whenever I'm watching you. Sorry. Okay, thank you. So these people in this caravan, the wagons ahead of us, all were on this boat heading south towards Eruvia, my native land. There was a fire on board. We don't know exactly where it started or how. And we were forced to get off the boat down in Old Northport, just outside of the lightning shield. We find and save these people, bringing them back, trying to find a way to bring them back in. As we approach, we see this lightning shield torn asunder, apparently by some act of violence against the crown. We get in. At first, we are greeted with understandable suspicion. But ultimately, we are given whatever consideration is due. We are placed into a tent, and we are placed into these wagons. And we begin to move off. This much brings us to your involvement. But as for why this has happened, this situation that we now find ourselves in, you know of the, no, you may not, you're in White Crown. On your way here from White Crown, did you hear of or did you see a warehouse in Night Market that was burned to the ground?
He shakes his head as no.
This was a great many good people who were lost in this fire. And we seek to get to the bottom of what is going on. This is not an easy thing to do if we are bound, not bound, that is the wrong word, I apologize. Euphemistically, if we are tied up. As more and more time goes by, we begin to lose the trail of the people we are after. And many good people are lost along the way. There is, however, not an end to it. These friends of yours, these men here, good people, I'm sure. I may whisper. You've probably guessed this. I can do what I can to help them. It would not be the first time that I have taken someone who has wrongfully come to the end of their life and taught them how to live beyond. And I will promise you in their names that I will do this. But I ask you to please give us the chance to explain what it is we are trying to do.
You can see the story affect him. At first, there is, as you're beginning to convey the circumstances with which you found yourself at the breach, you see concern. When you mention the circumstances happening in Night Market, there is confusion dancing across his face. And finally, at the mention of his compatriots, you see a mix of relief and anger, because it plays back and forth between wanting them to pass on or to move on to the next thing, whatever that is. But there's also this, you murdered my friends, kind of a conflict that is going on for him. And so as you see this kind of play across all his face, you can see that you're slowly beginning to lose him as the circumstances of the situation, as he looks around at the four of you and realizes that it doesn't look good for him, even if he acquiesces. You were not bound, but you were being treated as people of suspicion. And now he's beginning to tense.
Can I add something to that might make it a little bit worse?
Sure. And then I'm going to ask you to take some sort of an action roll of some kind.
Okay.
Because you're beginning to lose him, though. He's beginning to slip from the shock of the influence.
Oh, this won't help.
Okay.
This will not help my situation at all. Close. That's very close. What it actually is Hocus just kind of tilts his head a bit and says, Shorhan crows. As the Death Seeker crow is cawing, starts up.
You don't actually hear it yet.
Well, okay, then never mind that.
No, so as you're beginning to think about that, and you want to say that strikes you as a little odd.
Who turned off the crows?
I must have left them on all night. I'm sorry. I keep forgetting to plug them in because they sit there and they just yak and yak and yak and yak and they won't shut up. It's like, look, they're just rabbits. You don't got to freak out every time I got to kill. I got to make a stew. You know, I can never mind.
It was quite anticlimactic, not going to lie in this first one.
So let's move on with like what you were saying instead.
Well, so are you going to continue to influence him to try to sway him back in some way, or try to bring him back to your way of thinking? Or
Hocus is having a very hard time continuing with this because everything he has said thus far individually are nuggets of absolute truth. Each of these things did occur.
Yes, absolutely.
He has not technically lied. He's getting to the point where he cannot continue to spiel this without lying, and he does not like this idea. He doesn't like what happens in and amongst the spirit world when lies begin to spool up. So he's basically just going to and sit back with what would be a sigh of exasperation on his face, but he's got his mask on, so can't really tell. So no, he's not going to continue.
Okay. So what you see on what you see on the soldier's face again is the transition from completely acquiescing to your threat to a dance of a range of emotions based on the experience. But you see that you're beginning to lose him, and that his baser instincts, his more animalistic nature of a desire for either vengeance or a lashing out of anger is starting to play on his face. Based on your experience with people, just in general, as a whisperer, you have a certain amount of read, just like slides do, but it's more centered typically around the experience of being that medium between the dead and the living. You know that you've got a little bit of time before he reacts, again, based on human experience. Sorry, I'm losing something.
Your mind?
Ari, on the other hand, sorry. For some reason, I lost the name Ari for a second. Ari, on the other hand, is reading this individual perfectly clearly. And so what's happening for her is she's seeing that he is a boiling pot. Like he is ready to overflow and just explode in anger. It's coming. It's not there yet, but he is definitely, what Hocus did only delayed the inevitable, essentially, and that's obvious to you.
And that's why Ari's going to suggest something that Ari does best. You know what I think we all need right now? I think we should go for a drink. Who's up for a drink? Where are we? Where's the nearest? I think there's one probably around about 3 blocks from here. I think we could all use just something to let everything settle for a moment.
A drink, you say? I don't know about that in these clothes. Points to blood.
Well, Grin, if you wouldn't mind doing the honors and just give him a little whack, it would make sense.
Come again.
Don't make me do this. And Ari's going to smack him on the nose.
Him who?
Sky.
Thank you. Okay. Thought you meant the soldier. I was like, how?
Ow.
But look.
Oh, God.
Perfect. Perfect disguise. Now no one will wonder why you've got blood all down yourself.
Yeah. Got in a fight with a real tough guy. That's what happened. If anyone asks.
Now then, drink.
Waiting for a reaction from this guy on the ground.
Ari's just going to start walking.
Okay.
She's not even waiting. She's just going to start walking towards the nearest tavern of sorts.
That would be in Barrowcleft.
That would be in Barrowcleft. That would take you back in the direction that you guys had come from. So just if you look at Roll20 and you look at the map, look at the bottom of the map, I'll ping exactly where things are. You all are about here in this particular section where it's a radiant energy farm. Barrowcleft is back this way. That would be the closest tavern. Although, actually, now that I think about it, let me look at this real quick. There actually might be an alternative to that, and it might actually be in Dunslow, which is the community that actually services some of the ealeries and also provides some of the workers for Iron Hook Prison.
I was going to say the prison, yeah.
So you could go to Dunslow, which would be over this direction.
It's really slumming it.
It is really slumming it because it is a bad place. It's almost as bad as Char Hollow in a lot of ways.
And we'd be walking in as blue coats.
Well, you'd be walking in with a blue coat.
And I think both Sky and I are wearing.
You're wearing a disguise of some. Was it a blue coat disguise though?
Oh no. I think she's saying we're stealing the clothes of the guys we killed.
Oh no! You'd be stealing the clothes of Imperial officers, or sorry, Imperial
better.
Soldiers.
Much better.
Some of which are bloody.
Right. Well, luckily I have a bloody nose, so.
Yeah, so he's fine. That's fine.
No one suspects a thing.
All right. So with that in mind, you have a blue coat. You have 2 scavengers who probably would spit at the idea of putting on an Imperial costume of any kind. You have a Whisper who is dressed up in his Whisper garb, and you have 2 unclean Imperial soldier outfits. You make quite an interesting group, and so you're going to head towards Dunslow. Then is that correct?
I'd rather go to Barrowcleft.
Yeah, I think Barrowcleft sounds like a safe.
Okay, well, so just to remind you again, guys, this is the breach right here.
Ooh.
And at the breach, there is a ever-growing camp of Sparkrites and Imperial Army squads.
Why don't we cross a bridge?
Well,
hey,
it
Johnny.
being
Yes.
Over there.
Looking at the map,
Mm-hmm.
if I can ping it, what's this?
That is a part of Silkshore.
Guys, what if we head to Silkshore? If I remember rightly, that's the Red Lamp District.
It's the Pleasure District. Somewhere Ari would have very intimate awareness of in respect to moving through the streets.
Maybe some context there, Ari?
Brynn, you know me well.
Hmm.
Either way, there's bound to be a drink there, so let's go.
And let's go fast.
Okay.
Leave the uniforms.
As they start to walk away, and this guy's behind us, like on the floor of the cart.
He's not. He's. It's clear he's got a plan now that you guys all begin to move away. So
Look back.
Oh,
You coming?
oh boy.
he is just staring at you right now as he tries to figure out what he's going to do.
Oh, come on. You want to know what we're going to do next, don't you? Then you can report back to your little people where we are exactly. Now, come on.
How old are you, kid?
So you're not winning any points with this guy because you have left him trapped under a dead body.
I thought there was no dead body on him. No, no dead.
Oh yeah.
If we could get that off of him first, please.
Yeah. Grin will literally pick up the body and move it to the other two dead bodies and then pick up the kid and put him on the bench. How old are you, kid?
20.
Grin looks at Sky and shakes his head. Mm.
No.
I'm not. He can come with. He should come with. If he tries to run, we'll take him down. And I'm saying this in front of the kid. This is literally your only chance to live, kid. You come with us.
Are you trying to intimidate him? With that?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm going to need you to roll it.
Oh, crap.
You're going to need to roll some sort of intimidation here.
Okay. Can I leverage my command?
You sure can.
Okay. What do we want to call this? Controlled?
Oh no, this is risky.
It is it? Because I think the kid knows that we mean business.
For the kid, it's desperate. So he's clearly knows the situation that he's in. He's just watched you murder 3 of his individuals. It's clearly risky for you because you don't know what he's going to do.
Okay.
You definitely have control. You definitely are the much better fighter. You're much more skilled. You've got 20 years of essentially the Unity War and everything else that you've done in Duskfall. But for him, it's a desperate situation.
How about another dice for the fact this kid is surrounded by the 4 of us?
We haven't even gotten to that point yet.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get to that point. So it's risky right now.
It's risky. Okay.
The effect. I would say that it's limited because it's only focused on him, and you clearly have the advantage.
Okay.
I'm open to hear another option, but I think that's
no. I agree with it.
I could hear standard because it could mean that if he does agree to go along with us, if it succeeds well, it could mean that he is basically an ally at that point, which
or at least a silent enemy.
So him giving into the intimidation of, let's see, him giving into Grin's intimidation of him means that he might go along with it. I would expect there to be something a little bit more if you want him to have, if there to be any possibility. And this is an option for Grin or anybody else to reinforce what Grin just said. But it would take something extra to even have it insert remotely possible into his mind that there is some level of right to what you guys are saying, because the exchange with Hocus at first was good because of the threat, but then put him on edge, right? And so there's a lack of trust right now.
All right, Grin,
not to medic.
Grin, don't be so serious. Here,
let's
start him off. I toss him back my bottle of whiskey.
Okay.
And Ari's gonna link arms with him.
Now he has to catch it.
Well, after he's caught it, hopefully.
Well, she can link in one arm, he could grab with the other, but I'm curious to what Joff was going to say.
Yeah, sorry.
I was going to say not to metagame, but the kid just come along with the hopes that by the time we get where we're going, he can scream murder.
Well, that's the point of it being limited, right?
Okay.
Right. So that it's whether he actually risks his life and loses his life, or whether he waits on the situation. Now, the action that Sky and Ari are taking directly impact whether he actually is influenced enough to bring it forward. So again, all of you are participating in this. It's going to be a standard effect now, and you'll get that additional die because you were all involved. It's essentially an intimidation, adding the extra die.
Okay.
Do you want to push yourself or take a devil's bargain?
I can't push myself, and I just did a devil's bargain, which I'm going to pay for. So I'm good.
Are you sure? I mean, come on. It is 6 and 20. It is. I'm joking. I'm not going to pressure you. It's all good. It's all good.
The other thing that I was going to say with regards to extra dice is when would be to ask when Grin said, basically this is your one chance. Somebody mentioned, if you try to run, blah, blah, blah. At that point, Hocus would have been like, just like, no, like, this is not what I just told him. We're trying, like, as though Hocus, for all of the bullshit that he's saying, is trying to be on this kid's side. And in the hopes that somewhere that thread carries through, that at least one of these people doesn't actually intend him harm.
Right. Okay.
For what it's worth, Grin does not intend him harm. Grin won't touch him because he's so young.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is counter to what...
children.
Well, that's counter to what just happened, though. Because the other three individuals were also young. The oldest one would have been the carriage driver, who would have had a little bit more experience, would have probably been 25 or 26. But these were foot soldiers. These were young men or women. I think that in Dosqual and in the world of Blades in the Dark, I don't think sex would necessarily matter, or gender would essentially matter in the Imperial Army. I mean, look at Samandra, right? She's a captain. So, but in this particular case, these were young people who, so that's that. I don't bring that up to shut you down. I just bring it up because it's an interesting element of conflict that in the moment you couldn't see that, but now that you have an opportunity to reflect on it, Brynn is having a serious issue. And I think that's an important thing to acknowledge.
Hi, welcome to Guilt.
Hello.
By the chance, are you
friend.
Are you Catholic?
Remember all those kids who died in that explosion that we made?
Oh God.
I'm so glad you remembered that. I'm so glad. I'm just going to tell you that I'm glad that you remembered that. I'm not going to tell you why. It's just I'm glad that you remembered that.
Hey.
Are we going to have some sort of like ghostly children experience where they're all like, ring around the road?
I doubt
Oh
that.
God.
There were spirit wardens on site at that thing. I doubt any of those kids are coming back. Those spirit wardens will make sure that shit doesn't happen.
But they didn't get on site. They didn't get on site immediately, though.
Right, but 24 hours for these.
Well, that implies that the bodies were safe and whole and complete and are extracting themselves. If somebody blows up or somebody fires and burns, that removes the flesh.
Who would do such a thing?
I don't know.
Really.
I mean,
We're gonna get you.
I have to go.
Yeah, excuse me. I'll see you guys later. No, but seriously, guys. All right. So, Grin, this is a conflicted situation for you, but it's obvious that when you reflect, you're not going to do that, right? You're not going to intentionally kill the kid unless he comes after you, because he is a kid in your head. So here you are. You've got a risky situation for your command roll. You've got a standard effects because you've got Sky and Ari who are trying to diffuse the situation, with Hocus just kind of nudging that along with a nod. That was a nod, right? It wasn't a shake.
It was more of a shake. It was more like, oh God, don't say that.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Or we'll kill you. Everything was fine up until the, or else, and then it was like, oh no.
Okay, and so you get an additional die because of all of the help, and you're not taking a devil's bargain, and you're not pushing yourself. So, okay, so go ahead and roll it. All right. So, with all of your influence, Ari kind of loops her arm, into his left, her right arm into his left, starting to bring him along. Sky throws him the bottle, and he grabs it out of the air. And he kind of looks over at Ari for a second, and he looks over at Grin, and uncorks it and takes a drink and begins to walk forward. There is a consequence. Right? There is a consequence to this, but it's not going to come into play yet.
We don't know that, so I hope the
Onwards
consequences get
through the
super
red
drunk.
light district.
Okay, so you begin to move through the Radiant Energy Farm. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the environment that you're in. The Radiant Energy Farm is you're in one of essentially the rows where plants are laid into the ground, and you've got essentially two lines of radiant energy trees that have fruit bearing on them, and there are they're kind of these weird sort of gnarled kind of growth things that are about the height of your average person, somewhere between 5 to 6 feet tall. Between these rows is an actual line of crops that are actually being grown. So there's like 4 or 5 actual rows of little crops that are there, but it's things like potatoes or anything root based. Right, all kinds of root-based kinds of things, and little bits of other thing. But where you are, there's mostly root-based, very root-oriented vegetables. And so it's just this eerie orange kind of glow that just kind of floats around you. Hocus nowadays got a little bit of time as you guys are beginning to walk through, acknowledging again the fact that the Deathseeker crows are not immediately coming for the bodies that are behind you. You kind of take in the surrounding, and you realize that there's something off about this, because there's not the normal resonance of spiritual activity. Usually the ghost field is kind of itching at you a little bit, always there, just kind of poking when something's going on. Everything around you is just kind of buzzing, but not in a negative way. It's a very positive kind of a feeling. And so as you come to the end of the row that you're in, back onto essentially the road proper, which is right here, it's a little disorienting because it's darker there, and there are street lamps that are kind of lined, and here the lamps that are lined are actually gas lamps. They're not ectoplasm driven light sources. So it gets a little bit darker, and you feel that cold and that emptiness as a reverse to the weird sort of positive nature of it. And only then do you hear the Deathseeker crows, but they're not coming in your direction. They're not circling towards you. They're actually way off in the distance. And so you look down towards the direction of Iron Hook Prison, where you expected to be going until this young soldier told you that otherwise. And you still don't see a cart or anything in that direction. It's been long enough that the two carts that were taking you to White Crown have now moved on and whatever their path is. You do see a little bit of traffic, but it is mostly blue coats or Imperial traffic kind of moving in that direction, and you kind of hide behind the trees, or you kind of put yourself behind a building or whatever just to kind of catch what's going on. And it's a trickle. You knew that the majority of them were coming through Barrowcliff. They had said as much, so you're able to kind of make your way across. And so I'm assuming from there you're going to make your way towards Silkshore through this bridge right here, and I'm pinging it on the map. Is that correct? Okay, so that journey moving forward towards that, not much traffic right here because you're between two large tracts of radiant energy farms, and there are a little bit of carts on the side, and occasionally you see a goat that's kind of tied up, off to the left, or down into in the middle of one of the radiant energy farms, but they're not being bothered, and it's just kind of this weird eerie glow as you kind of walk through. And as you get beyond these two energy farms and you get to the edge of this bridge right here, you see that there is a checkpoint that's been set up of Imperial office, or sort of there's an Imperial squad there, and it's a checkpoint, but they don't look like they're really focused on anybody coming from your direction. They're not expecting anybody, so they're not really kind of looking, they're not vigilant right now in paying attention to your general direction. They're more just kind of looking off to the distance. As you can see, they're kind of staring more towards the inner part of the city. How do you want to proceed?
While we've been making this passage from where we were to where we are, Hocus will be, positioning the bodies so that they are in a much more reposed sort of repose. But that they're not just, sprawled about and everything, that he's tending to them and muttering in Iruvian.
So you actually took the cart with you?
That's what I thought you said.
Oh, I wasn't implying that you took the cart. I thought that you were walking. So even if even that you're taking the cart, I said that there are occasionally carts going by.
Okay.
When you were on that main throughway between Ironhook and Barrowcleft towards the breach. That's fine though. If you guys took that's perfectly fine.
Let's figure that out. Did we take the cart?
Yes. Let's go with yes. I think we need to dispose of the bodies in the river, right?
I wasn't going to phrase it that way, but yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
So Hocus, what are you doing on this little journey between the Radiant Energy Farm and the bridge between the farms and Silkshore? What are you doing there? I mean, what is this? What are these little Eruvian prayers that you're whispering? Are you preparing them to hook them, essentially?
No, I don't have any empty bottles. If I were going to hook them, I would do so before there would be another scene that I would have to talk to our new friend here before I did that, if I were going to do that. But okay. I wasn't planning to, because I don't have any empty bottles. So I would either have to I would have to empty the 2 bottles that I have. Who knows what the hell that would do. And this brings me to a point that I wanted to ask you offline, but I'll ask you now.
Okay.
Because my
good job.
My perception of the way that a spirit hook and the mechanics and the bottle work is that I can either hook and draw out the spirit whole and put it into the bottle intact, or I can puree it in the process and it's just electroplasm and any semblance of person is gone.
Into the bottle.
It would then still have to be purified because it's like crude oil at that point, but that it would not retain the spirit at all. At least that was one of my perceptions.
So what you're saying is that when you hook it in a way that destroys essentially the essence, the semblance of the actual person, the ghost that it's become, the soul. Mm-hmm. Essentially, you're just taking on the energy, but you're removing its identity.
Pretty much, yeah.
If that's your perception of it,
that's one way it can be done.
Well, so that you offered two options there. There's hooking the spirit whole, and then there's hooking the spirit just for the energy and not. So yes, I think that in both of those cases, I think I like the description of it. I think the question really then becomes, how is that relevant to this particular situation? Are you going to hook them and just puree them, essentially, to use your word?
It was a possibility. Where was the thing? What I was going to do is, if that was a possibility, that it can be set to happen that way, that I was going to in the course of this next scene, or potential scene, talk to this guy again and say, so these friends of yours, were any of them, interested in farming at all? Basically, to offer him the chance to, instead of going through, basically describing what the spirit wardens do,
right,
get a hold of these bodies, submerging them in electroplasm to just dissolve everything and they're gone. Whereas I could hook them but not use that particular phrasing, that I could release them into the in and amongst the plants, where they, their spirits could live in this peaceful place, because we can't hear the crows, we can't hear we can hear them, but they're very, very far away. And
right.
It's a very peaceful place. It's that, or it's, not to be crude about it, but let the gondoliers deal with it, or with the bodies, to make sure that they don't get, anything bad happening to them. But the perception of that would be that we're dumping their bodies over the bridge, and that's not what would be happening. Basically, to offer options. Which one of these would your friends prefer? Would they rather live out their existence here among the peace of these wonderful plants, or would any of them have preferred to have gone to the gondoliers for their bodies to be tended, or would they have preferred to go to the spirit wardens, basically to try to gauge from him what he knew of these people who were his friends, to what would their last wishes have been? There.
Okay, so first things first, I want to address the two techniques in respect to hooking. I think the common technique would be hooking the spirit whole.
Uh-huh.
I think that there is an opportunity to describe the hooking the spirit, destroying the identity, but retaining the energy, as being a technique that's maybe something very specific to the Eruvians. Like, we'll call it the Eruvian technique or whatever, or we can come up with a backstory about that. But I love the idea of it being unique to your heritage and your culture. Go ahead.
I was going to say, this is part of what I was looking for, which is why I was so distracted. And it's the description from the book of the lightning hook, which is a long two-handled pole with a loop of heavy wire at the end connected to an electroplasmic capacitor. And that is where the conversion is made, if it is so desired, is in that capacitor.
Well, then maybe then it's not necessarily a technique so much as it is a very specific type of hook that Eruvians have that has this ability to do both.
Because, especially in Uduasha, because
right.
There is so little time between the point that death occurs and the spirit gets pulled into the well.
Right, exactly. So I think that's a perfect description for why, as a Eruvian, Hocus would be able to do that, and I think that for that option, that's excellent. Now to bring it to the point where you're going to have this conversation with him, I think that's also a perfect way to segue into probably what's going to come about to be like one of the final parts of this, the end of this score, because it's my suspicion is, And I just kind of want to set an expectation from I'm having from all of this, is that by the time you guys get to Silkshore, this is one of Ari's stomping grounds. Essentially, she's going to be very comfortable being able to move here, so she's going to have connections to be able to secure you guys. So this might be the last element of it. It all depends on how you guys proceed, and of course, if there's a die roll, what happens in chance. So, okay. All right, so you're moving forward and you're doing this preparation, and as you get to essentially the point where you're coming out of the radiant energy farm, little like road that's between the two tracts of land, and you see this, you pull up in the cart a little bit as you realize that you're going to have to do something here. How do you guys want to move forward?
Is there a way to go by them without them having to look at us directly? Or rather, actually, does the kid with us see them?
He does, but he also is not stupid, given the circumstance of watching Grin kill people. Well, you know, and actually, that's not even fair to just Grin. He's watched 3 of you commit murder very easily. I mean, he saw Grin basically murder the guy on top of him that landed on top of him. He watched Sky murder the driver without a hesitation, and he kind of knows what Ari did to the individual that was sitting next to the driver, but he's not really quite sure how deadly she is. Regardless, he's aware that if he's going to survive this, if he chooses to survive this, as he has by accepting your companionship, he's not making any moves that is obvious to you right now.
Okay. I think we try to keep going forward as if nothing is wrong.
We're just people perusing the entertainment all around us.
So you're going to do this with the bodies on the cart.
Oh, can we get to the river before then? Actually, well, Hocus should have this conversation before then.
So as we're at the edge of the
farms and we stop for a minute,
finishing the prep and
there's probably a good maybe 1/8 of a mile between the end of the radiant energy farms and where that is, but it being an 1/8 of a mile, you can still see that there are soldiers kind of loitering there, at the entrance to that. So
you know these men best, far better than we. Do you know whether any of them would want to have spent time here in amongst the plants? Or I can do this. I can set their spirits in the residence here, wandering in amongst the plants, watching over them. There is another, this may be difficult for you to know, but there is another world in parallel with our own, where their spirits reside. And equally, it is with these. And just as these plants must be tended by we the living, so the spirits of these plants must be tended by we the spirits. Can you tell me, would any of your compatriots have wished to remain here in this piece?
He looks at you strangely as you're conveying this, and he gets a little uncomfortable, and you can see that he's struggling with something very personal. And as you finish, he says, in the academy, when they train us, they ask us whether we hold any beliefs, whether we believe in the afterlife. And then they tell us very clearly, and they take us to their crematorium, and they show us that in serving the undying emperor, There is no afterlife. This is all that there is, and we make the most of it. So, I didn't know them when I became a soldier. I met them. I met them when we were stationed in 6 Towers for a brief time. I don't know their disposition. I don't know their hopes and dreams. I just know that they were good men and that they were wrongfully ended.
We are in agreement there. Given that, I see no reason why Hocus wouldn't just hook all 3 and release them all into the radiant energy farms.
Okay. This is the kind of thing that I think is very, very much a normal thing for Hocus to do because of his training and experience. The thing I'm curious about is what happens when you release it. When you release it into these radiant energy farms, what does that look like? What does that experience? I mean, because is it something where you hook one, it's in the capacitor, and you walk up to one of the trees, and you just release it next to the tree, or is there an Eruvian ceremony that basically goes with this? Because I imagine that it still has to be fast. Whatever happens, it has to be fast. But
yes. It does have to be fast, but it is metered. It's not like just, it's the difference between opening the fire hydrant and attaching a fire hose to it first. So it's not just spraying, because there was a point where I was considering doing that in the last episode, where I was just going to start hooking people with the capacitor unplugged and just start shooting raw electroplasm at people. I was fully prepared for that possibility. It would be like Ghostbusters, just frying motherfuckers everywhere. But anyway, so Spirit Warden kind of put an end to that possibility. So because if anybody in that room could have dealt with Hocus on a similar level, it would have been him. So anyway,
that would have been a fun fight, by the way. I was looking forward to that actually happening.
I kind of was too, but Hocus still kind of wants to be a Spirit Warden, sort of, because that is a laid back job in Aruvia. Anyway, that's why there's only one of them. So, but now it has to be metered but fast. So basically, it's a case of opening a floodgate onto the plants, and they would benefit from it. They'd probably start glowing a bit brighter, but it would be like I mean, that's the best example I can come up with is opening an irrigation gate and just water beginning to pour out onto a field.
Okay, so
but we would have to move back because there is a light component to it, and it would be noticeable even at 1/8 of a mile.
Okay, so I assume that you convey this to the crew, and then bring the cart back just a little bit as you do this. And so when you release that fountain, that font, that burst of energy out, do you step into the grove at all? Do you step into the tract of land that is actually, or do you just do it from a distance and just point it in the right direction?
No, I think I would have to step in a little bit.
Okay, so first time that you do that, it's completely successful, no problem whatsoever. You're just kind of like the plants, just can begin to glow just a little bit stronger. The second time that it happens, the area around you grows incredibly bright. It's a little overwhelming at first. And the third time it happens, there is this burst of just brilliant light. And just for a second, you have a flash of that vision again that you've talked about with the demon. And it gives you a little bit of a kind of a pause and a little PTSD moment where you're just like, right. And as the glow begins to come down, you're kind of left looking around as the crew is just kind of looking at you and kind of watching around in the distance, but also watching you as you're doing this, just expecting you. And it is then that you notice just off in the distance, there is a series of tubs with this bubbling substance just kind of bubbling there, sort of this weird sort of orange, purple, swirling kind of a color. And it's back and forth, and you can clearly hear the bubbling now that your senses are coming back to you, and you see some steam kind of blowing off of it. And it's at a shack probably a good 20 feet away from you. And you didn't realize at first that this was, that these shacks were there because you didn't see it as you were walking through. But as you stepped in, it's just kind of there. And there's something really odd about it, but it itches at your ghost field. Like it itches at your sense of the ghost field.
Mm-hmm. And so kind of taking a long moment to sort of stare off at this thing long enough that everybody else is like, what the hell are they looking at? What? Eventually he's just like, well, obviously not like that because he's got his mask on, so it's under, but moves back to the thing and very kind of shakily climbs back in where, obviously our new friend could easily see that he's these are empty now. We can lay these here, but with respect. And so I'll kind of start trying to pull one of the bodies towards the thing to lay it out, but kind of weak a little bit now. And
I'll help.
Yeah, Grin steps up and helps.
And so where are you depositing these bodies?
I was planning just to do it right there by the side of on the road-ish, but next to the fields.
Okay. All right. So I imagine that you just kind of arrange them just, kind of off, some organized fashion, but they're just kind of laying off to the side. And as you're doing this, there's a dance of emotion. And Ari, I imagine that you're kind of sitting next to him to kind of keep him in line. And so he's just kind of watching, and he's confused. He's incredibly confused. And you see the dance of anger and sadness and anger and just sorrow. And he takes another long drink off of the flask that Sky had given him, almost emptying it at that point. And he just kind of shakes himself, and he looks away, and he does not look back towards the bodies. And, even when you begin to move towards the bridge, he can't. And so you begin to move back towards the bridge. How are you going to approach the bridge?
Normally.
All right, so let's talk about the organization or complement of the carriage. Who's driving? Who's sitting up front? Where's the soldier? And how are you presenting yourself when you approach? Because you both of you, or sorry, there are two of you that are wearing Imperial soldier uniforms. There's a blue coat with you. There were two Skovlanders with you. And there is a whisper. How is any of this normal, and how are you going to present it as normal?
I would imagine many people have many things. I could make it almost seem like this is somebody's fetish. I just happen to be in their uniform.
Not the answer I was expecting, but okay.
See how quickly he agreed with that?
I just think like Ari wouldn't even think about any of that stuff. She would just waltz on in like, yeah, this is me. I'm in Imperial's uniform. It's kind of tattered and torn and got patches of blood everywhere. But hey, I'm with an Imperial who's got a nosebleed and a bunch of other people. It's fine. This is a normal red light district occurrence. That's what is going on in her head.
I don't think that's quite right, Ari. I hate to tell you.
Hey, Johnny. How are these bridges normally guarded?
They aren't.
They aren't. Okay.
So the movement between the interesting thing about, at least in my mind, the world as it stands, where you've got the cities that are protected by the lightning barriers, they're essentially melting pots, and there's some level of organization and management, but usually that's managed by the city watch, which is made up of the blue coats and the inspectors. So they don't have the staff, nor do they, unless they're doing a shakedown, unless they're showing their criminal aspect of this, they don't normally manage the bridges in that way, right? So it's an unusual occurrence for the bridges to be monitored in any way, shape, or form. There's no tolls. Commerce is supposed to move freely. As a citizen, you can move to any of the district. You may get stopped at some point, but travel between the districts typically is not very controlled. So the fact that there's somebody actually stepping in front of, that's in front of you, preventing you from immediately crossing the bridge, does stand out as an issue. However, you are aware that there was an explosion in the lightning tower. So, and you were told that there's martial law that's being, at the camp, at the breach camp, you were told that martial law was being imposed on the city, right? You heard the bells that were pealing that indicates martial law is being imposed on the city. So this is not unexpected. What is unexpected is that it is Imperial soldiers and not necessarily bluecoats.
All right. So we're transporting refugees, victims of the attack back there. And, well, any more questions than that, and it's above their pay grade. We don't.
So the uniform.
Whatever you say, Captain.
So the uniform you're wearing is a soldier, is a grunt, is a foot soldier kind of a situation. So, if that's the story that you're going to, I can't wait to see how this rolls out. Okay, so who's driving and who's sitting up front? Let's start with that.
I'll drive. Ari, you want with?
I'll sit up front.
Okay. As you begin to approach, one of the soldiers begins to look in your general direction, pokes, the guy that's standing next to him, and starts motioning, and they move back over to the side a little bit, and they pick up 2 items, and it's clear that they're picking up rifles, and so they're not really holding them in any particular kind of threatening manner, but they're just kind of standing there, kind of at attention as your cart begins to approach. And so as you're making your way across this little 8-mile stretch, or 1/8 of a mile stretch.
Damn.
Yeah, I know. Slip of the tongue.
Mm-hmm.
As you're beginning to make your way across this 1/8 of a mile stretch, the activity of these 2 soldiers, they're paying attention. There's a little bit more activity going on in the background. You can see that there's stuff going on the actual bridge, but these 2 soldiers are basically standing in front of you and are impeding your way right now as you begin to approach. Bless you. As you get closer, one of the soldiers begins to step forward, and as you get about 100 feet away, the soldier begins to step out and holds up his hand, indicating that you should slow down.
All right, I slow down, but I'm not going to try. I'm going to try and not come to a stop if possible.
He says, "I need you to stop. I need you to stop. We need to understand who you are. I see that you're with her with His Majesty's army, but I need you to stop."
We got direct orders. We can't stop. We are in a rush here, sir.
I'm sorry. You're going to have to stop right now.
I'm sorry. We don't have time for this.
So as you're beginning to pass him, he starts walking with you, and he begins to kind of step back a little bit as he goes from holding the rifle in a way that's almost like a walking stick. It's a long rifle. To he begins to kind of shift it a little bit, and he's starting to step back and he looks a little bit, and he's like, "I need you to stop right now."
God damn it! Not this again.
Don't worry, I'll take the beating this time.
Nobody's going to get beat. We just want to have a quick conversation.
All right,
I see
listen.
that you're with.
Listen, here's the deal, all right? We've got direct orders from Lady Samandra. This Whisper we've got right here, he was a direct witness to whatever just happened back there, and we have a whole lot of questions for him, and we have direct orders to take him straight from here to the base.
And now we're going to have to explain why we're exactly 2 minutes now late.
As he's positioned in a way where he's still looking at you, but he kind of looks back into you, and he's looking directly at Hocus. And Hocus, you realize his attention's on you.
So Hocus will, he's sitting there with he's rubbing the temple, the middle of the forehead of his mask for some reason. Yeah, but it's almost as though it's like a not fetish.
Make that 2 minutes 52 seconds.
And he just sort of, when he raises his head to look over at the guy, it's just like glowing blue smoke just sort of drifting up and sort of pouring down through the Hocus has those little, they almost look like claw marks down the front of his mask.
And the soldier takes a step back even further. He's not changing the position of the weapon and it's ready, but he's a little taken back, and he looks over to the soldier that's at the head of the bridge that you're trying to cross, and he pulls his hand up and he goes like this, and that soldier moves out of your way, and they clear a path on the bridge, and they say, staging areas on the bridge, you're going to have to check in with them. If you've got orders, they'll clear you quickly. And so he motions you to continue as you're starting to move forward. So
just sort of nods his thanks and goes back to just sort of rubbing his forehead like he's trying to hold a bunch of shit in.
And so Grin, as you're sitting in the back with the other soldier, the young soldier, you're looking at the one that was kind of like, he did the motion and was checking in. You can see that he's doing some sort of hand signal, and it's the military, it's the Imperial Army's nonverbal communication hand signals that they have, stuff that you were exposed to in the Unity War, especially when you were under the contract. And you realize that he's motioning, 4 soldiers, 1 Whisper, essentially.
Okay.
So, and this doesn't strike you. This doesn't strike you as anything out of the ordinary at this point.
Okay.
So
I'll relay that anyway. I relay that quietly, just so that I'm passing on what they just did.
So the cart moves onto the bridge itself. And so what happens when you enter the bridge is that soldier that came up to greet you kind of moves in behind and takes up his position. And he's watching you intently as the second soldier that was with him at the head of the bridge is kind of looking out and paying attention to essentially the area between the radiant energy farms and the bridge itself. You hear a little bit of activity coming off to the side as you hear gondoliers making calls. Gondoliers have their own little weird sort of pigeon type of language that kind of happens often among them, and you hear some various calls, and it's mostly in the distance, but there appears to be 1 or 2 that it's actually right under the bridge. And as you kind of come in, then there is another group of soldiers, 4 or 5, with a lieutenant who walks up and says, I understand that you were trying to make your way through. Where are you guys headed?
What's the name of the castle again?
Well, White Crown is the district where the Imperial Army is stationed, and the Lord Governor and the Imperial Academy is, and all of that, right? That's essentially the seat of Imperial influence on Dosquil.
Sir, we were instructed to deliver these witnesses directly to White Crown.
And we're now 3 minutes and 57 seconds late.
What are these witnesses doing? I don't understand. You're going to have to explain this to me. I see you have a Whisper there, and I understand that there's a situation with the Whisper.
That's damn right there's a situation with Whisper. We don't totally know what's wrong with him. From what we understand, from what one of ours said, he could be a ticking time bomb for all we know. And we got to get him somewhere safe.
4 minutes 27.
Are you sure it wouldn't be faster if you took a gondolier to White Crown? We can arrange for it. Then we've got 2 seated right here. They'll get you there fast.
No, not near the water.
Absolutely not.
Near the water.
That's what we said first too.
That seems incredibly strange. All right, we're going to send a couple of soldiers with you. They'll escort you all the way there to make sure that you cleared through. I'm going to write up a writ real quick. Start moving. I'll have a runner come up to you. You. And he motions to 2 soldiers. They get into the back with you.
When he says all the way, does he mean White Crown? All right, whatever.
Yes, he does.
And so he moves off to the side to a writing desk that's kind of set up off to the side, and he begins to kind of to make a note as you begin to move forward. And they clear a path for you to move into Onkyart Park, which is where the park that you're heading towards in Silk Shore. As you get about 100 feet more across the bridge and towards the far side, there's a runner that comes up and he hands you something with a seal on it. At the bottom of the signature, and it's a note that basically says clearance, emergency clearance all the way to White Crown.
It's a good note to have.
Well, it's dated, right? It's dated and indicates the circumstance. So, okay. So you move off to the far side of the bridge. Yes, Willow, I know you're there, sweetie. Thank you very much.
But it is handwritten and it does have a signature, does it not?
It does.
That can be forged.
Yeah. It has, not only is it handwritten and has a signature, it also has the seal for his particular unit.
Lovely.
So you begin to move through the other side, and you find yourself in Onkyart Park. Now, looking on the map, Onkyart Park is renowned for a number of reasons. It's named for an Eruvian nobleman. Somebody that Hocus would definitely have some inkling of. It is significant because it is where a number of really interesting activities happen related to the arts. If you're not in Brightstone, you go to you go to this park for music festivals and for other types of little artistic things. There's also a stable here where there are horse and goat competitions, different types of games and techniques. Yes, so horses do exist. They're incredibly rare. They're very much tied to nobility or the imperial army or the seat of government. It is a very rare thing, and horse breeding is very, very much a controlled set of circumstances. It is lucrative if you want to make some money. Let's just be honest. Goats are very common. Anyways, but there is also a falconry there, and that is something that is owned by and run by and managed by the Eruvian noble that this park is named for, and so there are also falconry competitions and that kind of a thing. So it's really kind of one of the few places in Duskfall where it's just open and relatively green, and then the weird darkness that is Duskfall. It's an open field. It's beautiful. It's well manicured. It's well maintained. It's the kind of place where noble folk will go when they want to experience a little bit of life, what life might have been like prior to the Cataclysm. But it is directly tied to Silkshore, and so you get across to the other side. I'm sorry, what?
So I can tell you all about what life was like before the Cataclysm. Exactly.
And so this triggers a lot of memories for Hocus as you're kind of moving through. So now that you're successfully to the other side, in Silkshore, how do you want to proceed? Because there are 2 guards that are closely, monitoring the area around you. They're not focused on you. Their job is to protect you.
How
are you moving forward?
How closely are they seated to Hocus?
They are seated at the back, and they're just kind of paying attention to what's going around. You see the dance of, as you're seated next to near Grin and next to the young soldier with whom that you rescued, you can see the dance of possibilities playing across his face about what he should be doing.
We've got a few things we could do, convincing wise. We could use some trance powder to get them to just leave us be. mind their own business.
I had an idea. I don't know if I have enough liquor left for it, but if I could get that bottle back, take a swig, pour in a little bit of slumber essence, and offer it to the other guards.
Ooh.
Funny thing is, I was just thinking something not dissimilar, and I'd quite like to reach a hand out to the kid
Okay.
and just, with a very pointed look, just ask for the bottle.
It's almost as if he had forgotten you were there for a second when he sees your hand, and he takes a small sip and he hands it back to you. But
Okay, I'll take it.
He's seated back, just kind of.
Yeah, and I'll hold the bottle to him and nod, and I'll take quite the gulp. And then I will pass it around with the bottle. I think I'll skip Hocus. I'm pretty sure Hocus will not want to drink with his mask
Hocus
on.
would just take it and pass it to the next person.
Yeah. And I'm nodding at Hocus. I want it to move down to the front.
Okay, so you're able to successfully do that, right? You take a drink and it's almost gone. Like I said, the kid took a serious gulp after he witnessed what Hocus had done. So
how's he looking?
Like I said, he's got conflict playing all across his face about what's the right thing to do here.
Okay. But he's looking pretty dang drunk.
He's not drunk, more as he is quiet and reserved. But he was quiet and reserved, and he was calming his nerves with that drink. Yeah. And now that there are these two other soldiers, essentially two other of his brothers in arms that are right here, the dance of conflict about what's the right thing to do is obvious on his face. Lucky for all of you, these two soldiers are really following orders and not paying attention to anybody in the cart at this point.
Okay.
They're paying attention to something that they're looking for, something that's happening outside, which all should give you a little bit of pause anyways. So the bottle passes. I guess passes to Sky after the Grin is done. What is Sky doing with that? I mean, and again, I'm not sure. I'm still not sure what your plan is here in respects to the cart. Are you continuing to move on into Silkshore proper?
Yes.
Okay, so if you're looking at the map, this is the bridge that you just came off of, and this is the small, tiny bridge that you're going to go across to get into Silkshore proper. And so when you do that, that's just essentially a one-cart bridge as you're going to move across. So you've got a little bit of time before you get there into the proper to make a move on these guys if you're going to.
All right. If I just want to make sure there's no guards stationed at this bridge before we do this.
So there are, but there's I mean, it's really two guards at each side. It's a smaller bridge. They're not expecting a lot of traffic. They're managing all of it. And so what they're doing is they're there to keep the bridge secure, right? That's the obvious part to you as you begin to approach them and see what they're doing.
All right. Then I'd like to first go through and, show them our letter before I start offering drinks.
Okay. All right. And so they look at your letter and immediately are like, okay, and they step out of the way and allow you to begin to cross. And then, Grin, you see the signal get thrown, all clear, right? It is, no need to check them. They're all clear. And as you move across, it is a short path on this little, essentially, little canal between the park and Silkshore proper. And so you come into Silkshore proper, and this really is the real pleasure, oriented part. And so this is, where this is where most of the brothels are. This is where more of the interesting higher end, drug dens are. These are the places that you go for the interesting experiences that are not necessarily sex or drugs, right? You hear frivolity coming off, you hear music, and it's interesting that this is happening even while the chaos of martial law is happening outside. But it's almost like the fun never stops here. So,
Mardi Gras.
I was just about to say Mardi Gras.
Yeah,
I
so
like
it's not-
Coachella. I love Coachella.
Coachella.
Did you just say Goatchella?
I
Really?
said that in chat, yeah. When you said music festivals.
Coachella!
All right, that is a thing that's going to happen. Jesus Christ.
Yes!
Let me
Coachella
know
is
that
in
right
town!
now. Goatchella.
Louise,
Maybe that's when the
real.
demon appears that makes you all start to sing.
Yes. 6 and
We
20
have,
the
we
musical.
have to,
It's
we
coming
have to
soon.
wait for Louise to come back, but yes, that's got to happen.
All right, so as we've made it into Silkshore and we start kind of entering the streets, I turn back to the guys while I'm driving and I say, you boys want any of this? There's only a little left. Feel free to finish it off. And I just kind of toss it back.
And as you kind of toss it back, they're like, it's been a long night so far, and it's not looking like it's going to get any better. And one of them begins to take a draught off of it, and then passes it on to the other. What's in it?
Slumber essence.
Okay, and what does slumber essence do?
It is basically roofies.
Oh no!
So what is the description in the book? What does it call it as?
Let me pull that up. If I can very quickly. But from what I recall, it is basically roofies. It causes someone to basically just fall asleep for I believe it's into a deep sleep. Let me get the exact description.
Okay, so as you move into the Silkshore proper, and you're in the essentially the pleasure den district, right? Because there's a little bit more to Silkshore than just the pleasure dens. There's actually another park where some really cool stuff happens, and there's actually some other interesting, legitimate businesses that are happening. But for there are theaters and that kind of a thing. But for the most part, Silkshore is where it's this is the reason that people come to Silkshore. And so you hear all this going on in the background. There's not a lot of traffic on the streets. There are blue coats out. They are in force, but they're not doing anything other than just watching to make sure people aren't getting into trouble. But as that's all happening, the two in the back, pass on the bottle to the soldier who is sitting next to Hocus, and he kind of looks at it. He takes a sip, but you can see that he's playing at it because he knows there's something wrong, and he passes it back to Grin. And so as it kind of passes back into essentially your control, the two soldiers eventually just kind of pass out, and now you are moving through Silkshore in this particular circumstance. Are you going anywhere in particular?
Ari would know the best place for us to hide. Kind of look to her.
Well, I do know a little place that I used to like to peruse every now and then.
Okay, Ari, tell us about it. Anything in particular that's important about it, or is this just a place that you can hold up, and basically get out of the cold and get out of the circumstance?
I think knowing Ari, she would always feel the safety of hiding
In plain sight.
Hiding in plain sight. And so she's going to want to go to one of the places that she has either worked at or had a few drinks and knows some of the people there already.
Okay.
And it's not the nicest. It's not the nicest of places. It's not the fanciest, but the people are good. Maybe missing a couple of teeth here and there or something like that. Maybe a dead tooth, like a little dead snaggle tooth.
But not where she met Clav.
Not where she met Clav. No.
Okay, just making
No, not going back to OC's establishment.
good.
No,
Just making sure.
no. It'll be more like there's solidarity amongst women of the night kind
Okay.
of thing. And so we know yes, you must be from the Scarlet Rose. Oh yes, you must be from the Webbed Fingers. I don't know.
Okay, so I'll tell you what. Why don't you think about a name and give me a name, and we'll call that you arriving into this essentially the safe harbor.
Let's go with the first one, the Scarlet Rose.
The Scarlet Rose. Okay.
And as you can imagine, this place is just draped in overkill of red and multiple different tones of red. They are really trying to drive home that this is a place of passion. Look at it, because it's red. There's passion. And it's got little bits of gold, like gold trying to help decorate some of the places, but it just kind of comes out as a little bit tacky.
And do you have a proprietor in mind for this?
Not off the top of my head, but I
Okay.
can come up with something off the top of my head.
You don't have to come up with off the top of your head, but because you named it, I would love for you to come up with the person eventually that actually runs this place. But so as you all move inside to this
no.
location,
No,
what?
just the thing I messaged to you earlier. Never mind. Just about
I'm going to check my messages now.
the
No,
old man.
oh no, it's fine.
I said
As
no.
As you move inside, as you all move inside, Ari is immediately acknowledged. There's waves. There's a little bit of greeting and frivolity, and immediately as you all sit down, drinks are brought to you. So we're going to call that the end of your long night score. I have a couple of questions as to where certain things end up, but you guys are officially in a safe place now. You're in a safe harbor. You're at the Scarlet Rose in Silkshore. Now, couple of questions. Do you bring the soldier in with you?
Yes, that's what at least I'm thinking.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Now, because you've done that, he's still in that conflicted state, but he's starting to relax as the drinks begin to flow. So, what are you doing with the cart and the other two soldiers?
Huh. We have to abandon it and
park the cart somewhere kind of discreet where it might be harder to find. And as for the guys, I say we carry them in on our shoulders, say they had a bit too much to drink.
Uniforms a bit.
Yeah, I suppose we could walk in like half dragging them and like
We can burn
kind
them.
of make a joke of it, like, oh gosh, they've had way too much. This is, and hey, can we put these guys down somewhere? They're toast.
These amateurs couldn't keep up with us, but we've got a bit more partying to do. So is there a corner where we can prop these guys up for a little bit?
They motion the proprietor of the place by the name of Halaithe motions you to just put them in the back. There's a spot in the back, and when you get to the back, it's basically a room where they have a bunch of drunks that are sleeping essentially it off, or who've partaken too much and need a place to kind of sleep it off a bit. And it's mostly just cots and maybe a couch or two, but it's a little bit bigger in the room. And there's a couple people in there, and so you lay these two soldiers on a couple of cots, and you close the door back and come back to the proper as you were all sitting around the table. So you say you abandoned the carriage, essentially the Imperial Army carriage. Any particular place? Do you set it aflame, or do you just leave it there?
Flame would just attract more attention.
I see no reason not to leave it where it could accidentally be stolen.
Yeah. That's actually a brilliant idea.
Okay.
We didn't lock the goats, so.
Okay.
Walk up to the thing, and
We
then
didn't park the goats properly. They're gonna get towed.
Okay, so congratulations, guys. You have successfully made it to a safe haven.
Hey.
Downtime. Welcome to downtime. You guys got payoff.
What's that?
You guys got payoff from
something we did last month.
Something you did last month, but now you're going to deal with the consequences of all of that. All right, now we're going to go into heat, entanglements, and downtime activities. In your safe haven, the night is over, or that particular night is over. But under the circumstances, this was a pretty big thing that you guys did. Not a lot of people know it was actually you, but there's still a lot. I mean, there was still a lot that went on there. There were some dead bodies. Yeah, so it's a pretty high-profile set of circumstances as well. What do you guys realistically think you guys earned in respect to heat? I mean, I think this is a worthwhile conversation because a lot happened.
All of the heat.
Yeah,
Fury
I
of
mean,
1,000 suns.
before
We
we,
did. We did so
what's
much.
like the maximum heat you can get?
Well, so the scale goes from 0 to 6 as the base heat, right?
36.
So smooth and quiet to wild and devastating exposure. I don't think it's wild and devastating in
You are
that
disguised.
you took precautions, but you took precautions and then you found yourself, in an imperial, essentially garrisoned camp at the breach,
Out of our disguises.
out of your disguises, dealing with the circumstance.
There's a lot of people that have our descriptions. There's a hell of a lot of people that have seen us.
Exactly. One of them happens to be an imperial captain.
Yeah.
Who was under arrest. So, whether she chooses to clear. So I'm going to call this 4 as a base. You guys agree?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Because this was a high-profile target, I think you guys get 1 additional heat for that. This situation could be argued happened on hostile turf, but it really wasn't. I mean, the lightning barrier kind of just happened. Is really all around. So I don't think that necessarily applies. I also think it doesn't apply that you guys are at war, but there was a lot of murder involved. So one additional to the 4, so that's 5 for the high-profile target, and then another 2 specifically because of all the murder that happened. So that's 7 altogether.
All right, so we filled up the bar of heat. So we have 1 level of wanted and then an additional 5.
Wow. Hey Ari, there's this new downtime action ability called deflecting heat. It's perfectly made for you. I want you to know that. All right, guys, let's talk about entanglements. So in season 1, when we did entanglements, I would roll some dice based on your wanted level and your heat, and then I would tell you what the entanglement options were. You guys would choose, and then you would deal with the entanglements immediately. Situations like that got us into Clav and the Spirit Well and other little interesting circumstances related to that. In season 2, over on Shroud, I talked a little bit about entanglements and said, well, let's try something different. And in fact, I even published something on Medium about it. We'll still talk about wanted level and heat, but we'll roll, and then I won't tell you what you got.
Oh.
And it'll come into play as a part of either free play or the score. So it'll be more of a surprise for you guys. And you guys, you'll react to it, in a more appropriate fashion when there's an opportunity, so that if it's a Clav situation and the Spirit Well, it actually will fit into you resolving it as an actual score in the appropriate place where it happens, versus it happening, in downtime, and all of a sudden we've got an entire episode of entanglement versus, the mechanical element, which is downtime.
Makes a lot of sense.
Well, yeah, and so like I said, I published something. You guys can read that separately. But it's really more about moving through downtime as quickly as possible and getting back to the game proper. So it sounds like you've got a wanted level of 1, and you've got a heat of 5. So that means that you guys are on the middle. So I'm going to roll entanglements now. I'm going to do it privately. I'm going to do a GM roll. I'm not going to tell you what happens.
Everyone watch his face. Watch his face.
See if
I
the
think
pupils dilate.
He'll be smiling and excited no matter what happens.
Yeah, that's true.
He will grin evilly because he'll think of an idea.
Oh, look at that poker face.
Yeah, I'm working on my poker face specifically for this reason. All right, that's perfect. Okay, so entanglement is determined, and now we move on to downtime activities.
Oh, jeez.
Who would like to go first?
I guess I could go first and
I
do
agree with
the
that.
thing that you said about deflecting heat.
So If you haven't seen it, there was a little document that I published. We basically created an add-on to the game and added a new downtime activity. Because you guys are a part of a shared world where there are 2 crews and a 3rd crew coming next week, you can now deflect heat in the following way. And let me briefly.
It's not like Ari hasn't done that before, right?
Well, no, you're absolutely right. But there's a specific interesting element to the mechanics of this that I think you'll appreciate, because let me read it real briefly to you guys if you haven't already seen it. Basically, we go through the same process. You choose to roll the action that you want to roll to reduce the heat. And then you get an option. You can either transfer the amount of heat directly onto the opposing crew that you're targeting, or you can give them a new entanglement roll at the beginning of their session. So let me repost this in Discord chat for you, Ari, so that you can take a look at what I'm talking about. But at the end of the day, you get some really awesome options to really kind of target them. So there it is. Again, you tell me what you want to do, how you want to do the heat difference. It's the same way as reducing heat. The only difference is that the level of heat that you reduce is reduced slightly, with the added option to push that heat point for point over onto the other crew, or you can give them a new entanglement. And the new entanglement gives you an opportunity to introduce a new level of chaos for them, rather than it being just a straight 1-to-1 heat transfer. So it's entirely, your heat is still reduced. It's just what you throw at them is different.
Okay, no, that sounds a lot more fair and whatnot. I'm glad that you
Actually, I'm going to post that in chat as well for everybody on the stream, so that they can see what we're talking about, or in the viewers. So go ahead and go ahead and continue. I'm sorry.
Actually, before we go into that exactly, I want to point out that the rules of having a wanted level are different from reducing heat. If you want to get rid of your wanted level, someone needs to be incarcerated. Someone
does have to go to jail, but she is still taking the option of reducing heat, right? And so sending somebody to jail, right, is a completely separate step, and is not necessarily covered by reducing heat. Well, what she's trying to do is reduce your current heat so that you don't get an additional wanted level after your next score. Right. The thing I wanted to point out is, in the rules it specifically says to reduce the wanted level through incarceration. It is when one of your crew members, friends, contacts, or a framed enemy is convicted and associated for crimes. So, by deflecting heat, could the entanglement potentially lead to incarceration to reduce the wanted level? This is an option I hadn't thought about, and I'm glad. This is why I posted this in chat last week in Discord privately, so that we could have this conversation. But let's have this conversation on stream. So does that mean that testing works? So it will exactly. So under the circumstances, do you want to add a third option, which is deflecting the incarceration onto the other crew?
Team.
I think it's a good option. That's just me.
This poor new team, they're gonna like start and somebody's just gonna be arrested.
Well, no, I don't think, since we don't know about them, I don't think that we would be able to apply it to them.
Yeah, no, this would be something until you become aware of this third crew. It's not fair to them to start in that position. It is fair for you to deflect this in such a way that it falls back onto the Shroud. And if any of them are watching, I'm very curious to see how they're going to react to that.
At least one of them is.
Yep.
Which one?
The gorgeous one.
Oh yeah. I'm sure he's actually absolutely loving this option.
I'm loving just about no. However, that said and thought about repeatedly over and over and over again until I chafe.
Does it involve chaps?
No, surprisingly enough, it doesn't. And you said assless chaps last. All chaps are assless.
I know, we talked about this. It's funny. It's funny that you say it. Anyways, let's get back to because we're talking about mechanics here.
Right. So what I was going to say is that even if we were to try to apply it to the Shroud, that would involve so much of a flashback. That because
What do you mean so much of a flashback?
Well, I mean, the situation that we're in right now,
Mm-hmm.
how would we have gotten things into a situation? We don't even know what's going on with them right now.
So this is, well, you're absolutely right. So, and they're also a little bit forward. The circumstances would be such that Ari do her magic like she typically does and plan it in such a way that whatever she's trying to deflect from. So say she wants to plant the idea that the lightning tower being blown up was directly related to some action that the Shroud took. That would be a way of deflecting it and creating the suspicion.
Here's one way. She's been changing outfits like crazy lately. She's been taking someone's jacket, dropping it off, taking another jacket, dropping it off, taking another jacket, dropping it off. What if there was little trails that were being left with each jacket drop?
That's one option, right? But so what I'm trying to understand is Speedy is suggesting that there should be an additional option to deflect specifically around incarceration for the wanted level. Something I hadn't actually considered, which is, again, this is what happens when we talk about a new addition to a rule and throwing it into gameplay. So instead of it being the deflecting of the actual heat itself, or the actual, the introduction of a new entanglement, it's some new element that then becomes there's an interest in incarcerating one of the Shroud or one of their cohorts,
right,
specifically for something that Ari is suggesting that they did, which would defer your wanted level, right? Which is what you're trying to reduce there. And that's my understanding that you're trying to do?
Yes. I would say that I don't think it would instantly reduce our wanted level until one of them gets incarcerated. Until someone's incarcerated, it remains.
Right, but what you would be doing is you would be planting the seed for that to happen. And so when that happens, that's when your wanted level would go down.
Right, kind of like a specific entanglement.
Exactly.
That may or may not succeed.
So if we sit there and we use this ability to then have it completely snubbed later on because of some circumstance, it undermines the effectiveness of the having the ability at all, or using it rather, I should say. This is why I would wonder, does it only apply to player character teams, or can it also be applied to NPC teams?
Well, and so we had that conversation in chat before in Discord. In my mind, there is a particular set of circumstances that wanted level and heat solve, which is an extra level of complication for actual players and their crew. With respect to the wanted level, if you wanted to defer that onto, an NPC faction or crew, I would almost think that that's more of like a strictly reducing heat, right? That's an action that would happen in that particular direction, right? And almost or like a long-term project. I don't know. Speedy's introduction of this new idea is kind of throwing me for a loop when it comes to an introduction. And that's not actually a good thing that you want to do, because it stops the game cold right now. But we're having this discussion. So I don't know. I'm not sure exactly how to handle this at this point.
The other thing that I was going to say, which this may or may not help, is that the more convoluted your plan becomes to divert heat or wanted level to either some other player character crew or NPC crew, that the more levels there are and the more convoluted it becomes, the less of it, the less of an effect it can have.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking we just do the regular deflect heat that you
Yeah.
have here, and we'll discuss the rest of the details for another one another
Because
time.
now that we've
I'm
spoken,
with that. Yeah.
it'll be easier for us to.
Well,
Yeah.
I think this is a conversation that's got to happen, you know, as a side in Discord. But I'm glad that it got brought up because I'll be honest, Speedy, it was something I didn't actually consider, and I appreciate you kind of pointing out. Well, there's another nuance to this rule. Okay, Ari. So now you're going to step up and you're going to do this deflecting heat, and it's obvious you're going to target the Shroud at this point. What is it that
Still a
you're
little bitter.
really? I wonder why. So what are you doing? What action are you taking?
So I guess there's no like set action. It's more anything that I decide to come up with.
Oh my
Well,
God,
yeah,
we're
it's-
getting raided. Sorry, we're getting raided.
It's all good. It's all good. Speedy, you want to acknowledge that real quick?
Yeah.
Thank you for the raid, Mike. From Unmade Gaming, the other channel that this show is on.
Yes.
You should go follow him.
And you should. So it's kind of like what you did before when you were reducing heat, but it's more about current situations and throwing that heat towards the Shroud. So come up, think about a narrative position that makes sense for you to deflect heat onto the Shroud, and your whole talk about like the pattern of dropping the jackets and leaving clues there. There's a perfect opportunity there for indicating that maybe it was, OC that was responsible for, this, or, maybe it was Nyx that was responsible for that, and I could see you wanting to target Nyx given his desire or his murdering of Clav, but that's a separate thing right there. So it's the same basic action, right? You describe to me what you're doing. We'll pick an action that makes sense for you to roll, and then that will determine the reduction of heat, and then you get to make the choice of whether it's.
Where are the guards that came with us that we kind of tried to sleepify?
Who were in the back room asleep?
They're in the back room asleep.
Also, just for the record, I looked up the slumber essence. It lasts for an hour, so. But it is a deep.
You're gonna have plenty of time to do whatever it is that Ari's gonna do.
Yeah.
Guard number 3 is with us at the table, or the bar, or wherever we are.
But we kind of need to keep him with us still, don't we?
Well, that's entirely up to you. You guys have to figure out if you're going to try to convert him into an asset, or if you're going to let him out into the world, and the consequence of him going out into the world comes back to bite you in the ass.
Well, what if he went out into the world and believed we were not who we exactly are, but somebody else?
That is a perfect deflection.
We're trying to get rid of him anyway.
Okay.
Right? We don't really want to keep carrying around this young guard and be responsible for somebody that we don't give a shit about.
Okay. So describe to me what that means.
I'm assuming that we're all now sitting down and having the drink still.
Yes.
And he's sitting with us. So I'm going to start referring to Sky as Nyx. And I'm going to start referring to Grin as OC.
That one might be harder.
Well, it's OC, there's no real all he knows.
I can dress sexy. It's fine.
He just hears the names, just the abbreviations.
Sure.
Okay.
I like that idea.
So out of nowhere, while we're all just drinking and trying to figure out the day, you're just like, okay, so Ari is now talking to us as different people. Let's just go with this. What she's going to try and push on to you guys. Because the guy already knows that Hocus is Hocus. There's no way that we can.
I don't think anybody has ever said the word Hocus in front of him or said his actual name, right? to my recollection, he hasn't actually been identified as anything except a whisper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well,
So
I'll
you're
be
good.
Slade then.
Okay. So you are Raymond Bowerstone.
Exactly. So while we're all just sitting around and enjoying ourselves, Ari is going to just start referring to everybody as completely the wrong names. And you're not entirely sure whether this is because she's drunk or whether she has some sort of plan. But the air that she's giving off is go with it. Go with it, guys.
All right, Ari, spin us a story.
Words and things. I'm gonna start buying more drinks for the young soldier that is with us. Gonna continue on into the night for just a bit, giving him more drinks, referring to all these people by their wrong names that are around him, before deciding, you know what? I think it's time that we did something generous for this young man here. We should just let him go. You don't want to be here, do you?
He shakes his head. He's so drunk and inebriated, and now he's gone from being angry to just being really sad. He's uncomfortable and sad and wants this to be done.
OC, what do you reckon? Shall we let him go?
She's looking at you, Grin.
Yeah, I keep forgetting I'm OC now. Well, metagaming, I have a crazy idea, and I know it would take a lot to do, but I'm wondering if we can convert the kid into an asset.
Well, she's deflecting heat right now.
Yeah.
You're setting him up to for something where you are all being referred to as members of the Shroud. If that's going to happen, then suggest it now before she gets really deep into this.
I'm not saying that he needs to know the full plan. I'm not saying he's our best friends. That's not going to happen. But perhaps the way we have been treating him would influence him. Maybe there is something that we could do, even if I had to burn both my downtime activities. I'm wondering if we couldn't convert him to at least a tenuous ally and then send him on his way.
Converting him to an asset is very much
and it's based on the tier of his faction, right? It's us.
Well, no, it's the tier of your faction. Your
okay.
Crew. So you would have to roll, and then depending upon the result, there could be factors that play into that. But if you were going to step in on Ari's downtime action right now, which is deflecting heat, then let's start to push it in that direction, because I actually thought that you guys would try to convert him into an asset. Using him for deflecting heat is a really interesting idea, especially given where Ari's going with it, which is, hey, OC, Nick's over there said, that.
Now,
and just remember that my name's Ray.
I don't want to throw a spanner in the works. Let's stick with your plan, Alex.
Cool.
Yeah. I'll spend my 2 downtimes just getting drunk.
As we're kind of drinking here, and I'm kind of trying to act a little bit more drunk than I am, and as I'm doing so, I'm changing my voice a little bit to sound a bit more posh, a bit more Nick's-like. His fake voice, anyways.
And I just start to sound more Kiwi. I mean,
No.
But yeah, we're gonna start trying to convince him that we are these other people. Is essentially where I think we're all going with this.
Okay, so
I can use a sway to be extra persuasive.
Well, and so that's where this comes in. You get to choose the action that's going to determine the results of this. And so being deflecting heat, with your choice of action sway totally makes sense. It's any action that you think is relevant that you want to try and roll. So as you're building the story, you start referring to, Grin as OC, and you're referring to Sky as Nyx, and you talk about yourself and with the name Ray.
As in Ray of Sunshine, of course.
Is it too late to call Grin Ray and Ari OC?
It's too late. We're too deep now.
Brilliant. You're too deep into it. Okay, and so you roll your sway. Okay, so go ahead and click on your sway. Your position and your effect they don't apply here. I mean, it's a downtime action, right? So it really is just about the success of the result.
Okay.
You go right into additional dice. I could see if all the characters are playing along, that giving you an additional die immediately to this circumstance, right? I think that
so effect would be like standard, right? Just straight to the
yeah. So it would be the position would be controlled and effect would be standard. They really don't apply in this particular case. So there's one additional die at least coming to you because of the support that you're getting if the table is playing with that as their characters. Do you want to push yourself or take a devil's bargain in convincing him of this particular case?
Can I offer up a possibility for another die?
Sure.
He's drunk. He may not have the cognitive wherewithal to realize that these names that we are referring to each other as might be flames. That we are not actually stating each other's real names.
Okay.
In his drunken stupor, be like, stupid guys just told me all their own names.
Yes.
Okay. Sure. Okay, so that definitely offers you an additional die. What else? Anything else? Do you want to take a downtime action? Or sorry, do you want to take a devil's bargain or potentially push yourself?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. All right. So go ahead and roll it then.
So is that 1 or 2? Sorry.
So that's two additional die. I'm sorry. I did not speak for it.
No worries. All right. Bugger.
Oh.
Oh no. Oh no.
So deflecting heat has a slightly different scale on which it determines the result. This is really interesting. Typically, a 1, 2, or 3 means that one heat is actually deflected, and that means that it's a success in some way. That is in reducing heat.
Stop laughing and listen to the man. Wait to start celebrating.
In deflecting heat, it has a slightly different scale. 1, 2, and 3 is actually a failure, which means you reduce your heat by 0. So there's a chance of failure, but the when you succeed, you have a much better set of circumstances. There's a much larger benefit with the opportunity of entanglement. So you have not successfully convinced him of what's going on. He is so upset and drunk. You have failed. You got 0 heat, which is a surprise given you the fact that you rolled 5 dice. It also means that you're not deflecting or taking any other action that is going to affect the opposing crew. So as you're going through, he's just shaking his head. He's just not into it. And finally at one point, he just kind of throws it down and heads back to that room to go sleep it off because he was with you when you dropped off the 2 individuals, and he just goes back and he goes to sleep.
Now you can.
Damn it, Grin. Why couldn't you be a better OC?
That's fair.
I guess I'm only the first person out of everybody to try and deflect heat.
You were absolutely right. And so this is
There's many other people here.
So you have opportunities now, but you also have a second downtime action. That was your first downtime action. So that was I'll be honest, that was the first time it's ever happened. It's come into play. Thank you for doing that. It was really interesting to watch it kind of play out, especially since it failed after 5 die. That's RNG really just not liking you at all. That's Roll20's, randomness.
Not
just
my
not
day.
it's just not you. Maybe you should
Not
have rolled.
very Ari. Maybe she drank too much herself.
You've also
I'm
had a-
Ray.
You've also had an incredibly stressful day. Think about that. I mean, you've been outside the lightning barrier. You've come back in. Murder has happened, and you've had to sneak through to get to this particular point. So Ari has a reason for why she potentially failed. Right there, it was an incredibly difficult day. So your first downtime action has not gone as you expected to. You failed. Now you have another downtime action. What would Ari like to do with her second downtime action?
Recognize the raid.
Recognize the second raid.
Oh my.
Thank you for.
Why is there cheese in the chat? That's confusing.
Four loves cheese.
All right.
Why are
Okay.
you a cheesist?
I'm not.
He's above you right now.
God damn it.
Anyways. Oh, hi, Trent.
Get the juices on me, boy.
I would like to, as my next one, do something that would help me reduce stress. My stress.
Okay. All right. How much stress do you actually have right now?
I have 5.
Okay. So you have a slight potential for overindulging, but that's actually a good space to be in right now to indulge your to reduce your stress and indulge your vice.
Plus, it'll make sense why I failed at my thing if I indulge in my pleasure and I overindulge.
That's also, but when you overindulge, there's actually a consequence that gets introduced into the game.
15 heat. No.
No. So why don't you go ahead and click on there's a button there called Indulge Vice. So go ahead and click on that and let's see what happens. And then depending upon the result, I'm going to ask you to describe to us what happens when Ari indulges her vice. And then we'll talk about what the overindulgence is if it happens. And hopefully RNG will be your friend this time.
Okay, so no bonus dice for indulging.
Not at this point, no.
Come on. Iron Jesus.
Excellent. You did not overindulge and you reduced your heat by 4. So now you only have one, or you reduce your stress by 4. You only have 1 stress. Please describe to us what it's like when Ari indulges her vice. What does it mean for you?
Well, we are in a brothel. And she has a pleasure vice. So after a few drinks, she's going to spy her way around the bar and pick out the loveliest young gentleman she can think of at the time in her inebriated state and tell the rest of the crew that she'll be in her bunk.
Excellent. That's pretty straightforward and simple. You know what? In fact, I think that's probably the least shocking.
Crude way I could have put it.
No, not even just that. It's the least shocking vice possible. I mean, you just went and had a good time. That's not murdering somebody.
It's a stress reliever.
Exactly. It's all good. So excellent. Second downtime action done. Great. Thank you. You can choose to spend 1 coin or 1 rep to take an additional downtime action if you'd like, or you can defer and move on.
Well, we'll defer.
Okay.
I'm good.
Who wants to go next? Excellent. Thank you.
I'm busy.
So the last thing we hear before she disappears is, "Good evening, miss." And there goes Dawn.
All right. So who's going next?
I think Hocus can go next.
Okay. Hocus, talk to me about your downtime.
He would also like to indulge his vice, but that might be a little bit tricky, maybe. Given
well, you're in a friendly spot, right? So, the Scarlet Rose, as Ari described it, is really the kind of like the pleasure den for people who really operate in the pleasure trades, right? So this is more of a safe space than you would expect. And anybody's vice that gets indulged here.
They also have a really nice buffet table.
Also, if you're worried about them not having ropes, I assure you they do.
No.
Oh,
He's not
whoa.
worried about- he's
Hold
not-
on.
Well, now remember that there is a reason that he said that. I mean,
Oh, I know.
Hocus is, the way he indulges his vice is by meditation, by making rope. But
Mhm.
that means that if they have rope, that job's already done. He needs to have
Take it
something to
apart.
make rope out of. So what he would probably do is ask for old bedding and stuff that he can rip into pieces and then braid that into rope while he's doing his meditation.
That's
Okay.
a strange fetish you have there.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am, I know it is. It's a sort of originally it came up. I was living in this place called Tyler, Texas. It's a horrible shithole. Don't ever go there. It's just there ain't nothing there but cows and there are cowboys. That part's not so bad, but most of them, when they walk up to you, they got a Dixie cup that's about half full of spit, and they got like a chaw the size of a half a cow stuck up in their lip. They're like, "Hey, how's it going?" You're like, "Oh God, you done hit my gag reflex from 16 feet away. How the hell you done?" No, but really not.
Whew.
So I'm just gonna say I'm a tiny bit turned on now. I mean, that's
You are still
Accent-
above me. Don't make me reach up there.
you would do what you like. All right, it's your
Oh.
vice.
You remember you said that. Okay.
All right. So I imagine that Althea, the proprietor of this particular establishment, an older woman.
Actually, Kayla, I am a Texan, but anyway, moving on.
So I imagine that she might be able to facilitate your need for bedclothes that are old and ratty that you could just begin to bind. So if that's what you're going to do, then great. Go ahead and roll your. Go ahead and roll. Do the indulgence.
Mhm.
And let's see what happens, and then we can talk about the results of that. What stress? How much stress do you have currently?
5.
Okay, great,
5.
excellent. So you remove all of your stress completely. And so what is that you do when you're? I mean, is it just you just begin to strip it, the bedcloth, and you begin to bring it back together? What is this ritual like? What is this meditation that is important to Hocus?
It's repetition of pattern. It's the consistency of measured movement.
Okay.
Everything being in its place, a place for everything. He can literally do it blindfolded. So it's not so much the portion of tearing everything apart, but it's once he's got all of the materials ready, he sets one strand of or one set of material off in this direction, one off in this direction, one off in this direction, and he brings all 3 of them together and just sits there just chanting everything while he's weaving this rope together. And if he reaches the end of whatever he's got, he goes through and slowly undoes it and then puts everything back and goes through it backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. It's as much about maintaining muscle memory of making rope, which his family has done for generations, as it is about his meditation.
Okay, and so what is it that he's chanting? What is it a hymn? Is it a prayer?
Do you want it in Arubian?
You're more than welcome to share us in Arubian, but I'm just kind of curious what the meaning is behind it, because I'm wondering if it has some sort of practical element in the world, or if it's just something that he was taught as a part of the ritual that is rope making.
It's mostly something he was taught. It has nothing to do with rope making. It's
Okay.
more about a way to clear, center, and focus the mind, so that if you are ever faced against something which you feel you cannot confront, that you cannot deal with, that is beyond your skill, it is about not allowing that fear, that apprehension, that self-destructive sense of doubt, not allowing that to influence your ability to do what you have to do to deal with the situation.
Okay. All right.
I don't have it. I'll have to make it up. I don't.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Okay, cool. So you've centered yourself. You've reduced your stress to 0. Let's talk about your second downtime action.
Okay. The only other thing that I can think of right this second, there are only two things which come to mind. One of which has just been, kaputzed kind of with the guy walking off to go sleep it off with his other two chums. However, how much time has gone by?
Time becomes ephemeral. It becomes something that's intangible in downtime. So, I mean, it's a situation where the order of these doesn't necessarily have to happen. If you want to do something to address the young soldier now that he's gone off, or when he wakes up, that is entirely up to you. What are you thinking that you want to do there, though?
Well, as you were saying that, something else came to mind, and it is not something specific that he has to be awake for. And this is going to sound perverse.
That just did. I'll be honest.
Because Hocus is going to be doing this while the guy's asleep. But it's basically going to be a kind of, I almost said spiritual heavy petting, but it's not going to be heavy. It's going to be very light. But basically, he's going to go into that back room where the guy is sleeping it off.
Okay.
The drink, I mean. And he will basically walk in and lay his hand on the guy's chest and sort of try to soothe the spirit.
Okay.
To try to ease that sense of worry, that sense of what am I doing? The conflict that is clearly happening between self-preservation and duty. Because they're both valid. I mean, that's basically what, Hocus was just doing in his meditation was, dealing with that sense of, oh my God, I have to save myself versus what I have to do. And so,
okay. So let me ask you this question though. That's a really interesting sort of selfless act that Hocus wants to take on or to do. How does that fit into like the context of a downtime action though? Like what is that? I mean, are you trying to attempt to acquire an asset and basically soothe his soul in such a way that he's more receptive to engagement afterwards? Is this you're trying to reduce or end his suffering, and that's more of like a long-term project kind of a thing? I mean, or is this sort of again something that directly relates to reducing heat in some way? Because it's so interesting that you would choose this action. I'm just looking at how to relate it from a mechanical sense.
Right. Well, I mean, Hocus didn't kill any of those guys.
No, you did not.
Did get kind of aggressive in the you're going to drink all this if you don't stop fucking around, kind of a thing. But that was to just get control of the situation. I doubt Hocus would have actually done. They might have actually, but anyway, because the guy would have survived it. It would have been okay eventually, but he would have just had to dealt with having his personality suppressed, and maybe completely drained. Well, whatever. Anyway, okay. Hocus is feeling a little bit guilty about what's going on and kind of grasping at how do I resolve this? So it's closer to soothing the guy's soul so that he's more receptive to Hocus. Yes, exactly what I was going to say. Hocus really doesn't think that making this guy an asset is going to be something that's going to happen.
Okay.
But the idea of, please understand that there is a greater good going on, and, it may not seem clear to you right now, but we don't want to harm you, and this was not intentional. And while he's not communicating that outwardly, he's trying to make it easier for if somebody else wants to reduce heat, basically.
Okay, so I think that still qualifies as a reduction of heat.
Yes.
For you guys, given the circumstance, because you're treating it in a way where you're soothing his soul, you're interacting with him directly. I think that to me sounds like an action roll of attune to apply to this reduction of heat. So again, it's your choice. Final result of what action that you want to choose in order to make a roll to determine the heat reduction. But it sounds like that's the direction that you're going to.
So I'll open it to the table and say, which do you guys think would be appropriate, attune or sway?
I think attune. I don't think you're. He's asleep. You're
not
not really
conscious,
physically
that's
talking
good.
to him. You're attuning. You're easing his
Yeah,
spirit
agreed.
more than his mind or ears.
Okay.
And
All right then. So why don't we go ahead and start with an attune roll?
I will presume that she also thinks that.
Yeah. Well, she's not here, so you can.
Speak for her.
All right. So, proposition. Or sorry, position.
Position.
I'm not
Proposition.
I'm not
Where is your head,
proposition.
young man?
Just because this
Don't
guy,
ask me
he
that
is
while I'm-
unconscious.
I mean, let's be honest. You've got a captive audience. That your boys are in the audience. So let's.
Yeah.
Anyways,
My
no
boys.
position. So okay. So again, this is a downtime action. It's reduced heat. Position and effect don't matter. Only
Okay.
thing that matters is, essentially whether additional dice get applied to here, right?
Okay.
And so, because you're taking this on your own, I'm not sure necessarily there's any type of group assist that applies to this.
No, but I wonder if Ari's attempt. No, because that was a pretty severe failure.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there wasn't a lot of room for there to be, a positive out of it.
Right.
Just the fact that he's drunk, though, or I mean, the fact that for the entire time in the bar, we were generally being nice to him. We were trying to treat him almost like a friend, although not expressly. But we were.
Well,
I think
sure.
that would cause some conflict in his mind of whether he actually thinks we're bad people. Because we're just people. We were just hanging out, having drinks.
Hanging out having drinks is one thing. We killed 3 of his compatriots.
Yeah, but he's a soldier. Good people kill people sometimes.
You are. So to me, in my mind, the fact that he's drunk and the fact that he spent so much time with you, he was always in a conflicted state, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was always, and I made sure to express that there was always some level of conflict going on for him. And by the end, when he was super drunk, and Ari took her attempt, he was at the point where, he was just melancholy and sad about the situation. The circumstances were really upsetting to him, and that was where, Ari was really beginning her effort, and sadly that failed.
Okay, then what about this?
Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, regardless of how conflicted he is, regardless of what they are taught to believe in White Crown, somewhere in him he has his own belief, whether or not that has been, squished by his training or whatnot. He did see what Hocus did to tend the spirits of his 3 compatriots.
Because it's you, then yeah, that definitely makes sense, because you took care in the people that he care for. Absolutely, that throws an additional die your direction. Absolutely. Now, in addition to that, would you like to push yourself or take a devil's bargain? Remember, this is reduce heat, then not deflect heat. There's always some level of reduction that's going to happen.
Right. Again, we'll throw that to the table. I mean, I am 0 stress right now, so I could push myself. What do you guys think?
I think it's up to you. I don't want to say one way or the other. We do really need to reduce this heat, though.
Yeah, you guys are at 5, and you also have, a 1 wanted level. So.
All right, then yes, I will push myself.
Okay, great. So take 2 heat or 2 stress.
What?
And add so that's 2 additional die for you. One for the benefit of showing care for his compatriots, and the second one because you pushed yourself and took an additional 2 stress.
Okay.
So,
anything else?
I don't think so at this point.
I'm hearing no. All right. So rolling.
And that's a 5. Again, RNG is not your friend. I would expect at least a 6 or a crit at that point. So
I'm just glad you pushed yourself for that.
Well, so with reduction of heat, it would have been 1 instead of 2.
That's
Essentially,
right,
he's reducing 2. So Hocus's intent is incredibly noble in this, in what he's trying to do for this particular person. The result is, he soothes their soul. There's a fair bit of conflict that is now settled in the boys, in his mental state, the soldier's mental state. The reason it wasn't more successful from a narrative perspective is because he was drunk, and it was an overwhelming night, and everything else that was going on. So Hocus did good. You're down to 3 heat instead of 5. However, again, it had a limited effect. So excellent. That's your second downtime action. Do you want to take an additional one for an additional coin or a rep?
I still have my 1 level of harm.
So yeah, I wanted to talk about that. I meant to talk to you about that. Was one of the things I wanted to catch with you privately. So that is actually that isn't a trauma. So it's only a level of harm.
Okay.
It is a reduction, position when you roll, and it applies across the board. But it's something that can easily be resolved through visiting a physiker and doing what's called the recover action in downtime. So it essentially starts a long-term project to reduce the thing. And as a level 1 harm, it's essentially a 4-segment clock. It's the kind of thing that you could potentially do very quickly. So, and that shock is like a shell shock, sort of like a PTSD to the particular circumstance, and it comes up, but it's not overwhelming you at this point.
Right. It's
the kind of thing that you could still let settle until your next downtime action, or you can step up and do that. Right.
All right. We'll move on. Keep the game rolling.
Okay. All right. Who wants to go next?
I can go. So there are a lot of things that I should probably do, but first and foremost, I should probably try and indulge my vice. So
how much stress do you have?
Just 8.
Wow, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So for me, my vice is usually it's visiting the ghost of my sister. However, my sister is now in a vial around my neck, so I would just like to get one of these private rooms at this brothel, with no one else around, and basically we've been out through into the what's it called, the Deathlands, and we have been around a great deal of spiritual energy, and the ghost of my sister hanging around my neck has just been screaming, and I've been trying to ignore it as best as I can for all of this time, but she needs attention, and I can't let that go any longer.
Well, so to be fair, let's be very clear about this. She's been screaming from the moment that Hocus hooked her and put her in the spirit bottle. So if you remember, and I think Trend probably remembers this, I described it as she was screaming the moment that she was in the bottle, and that she's been screaming that ever since. So that stress, that attention, that shift in focus, that always little voice in the back, that little noise has always been there for you. So it's definitely good that you're focusing on it, because it explains your 8 stress in a meaningful way.
Hocus, is it safe to take her out of the bottle?
She will be more than a bit hungry. And being put inside that bottle is not exactly the most pleasant of experiences. She may be equally angry. This room could probably lock it against people of the flesh. But we do not have the arcane locks here that we had at Donovan's. If she decides to leave, the only way to stop that would be for me to hook her again, and I don't want to do that.
All right, I'll try to calm her within the bottle, and I'll do my best.
How far away are we from the park that we passed through?
Well, so if I'm looking at the map, I really don't think you got that far into the brothel social proper, so probably in this area around here. Why do you ask?
Well, it's kind of twofold. One would be just to get them out and away from people, so that if he chose to let her out of the bottle, that the only person around that she could potentially try to feed off of would be him, if she were going to. Or the other question I was going to ask is, do I, well, this Hocus, know of any spirit wells in the area, or can he feel any at this point?
You could probably find one, absolutely, to facilitate him. Definitely.
And that would be my thing.
Okay. So you would also know that there would be a fair bit of risk exposing her to a spirit well in the open like that. You're not sure what that will mean for the spirit. So you would warn him that putting her, indulging his vice or bringing her out into the open, releasing her from the bottle, you're not sure that you could hook her again, because you're not sure how she would react, whether she would get attracted to the spirit well, whether she would, run away. You have no clear idea of what kind of control you're going to have in this situation, or what clear kind of control he's going to have in this situation. So given the fact that he is so stressed, just the act of it would clearly clear all of, or at least potentially 6 of his stress, but you don't know how she's going to react, right? There's not a situation where it's not a controlled set of circumstances, so you would have to communicate that to him.
Is there any way that I could let her feed on me without risking her getting away?
Without opening the bottle? I doubt it. This was part of my warning to you from the beginning. We had the arcane locks on this room or this building. She would be contained within this space. The problem is, even on the carriage, we could let it come. But no, I cannot guarantee that she will not. I can't guarantee it.
Then I can't risk it. I can't. There's nothing I can do. I'll have to stay in there for just a little while longer. You hear that, Lara? Gonna get you somewhere safe. I can let you feed like you always do. I swear. All right.
Okay, so now that you've decided that you're not going to indulge your vice, and just to be clear, you could take some additional set of sets of circumstances. You could engage Hocus to try to help you in that in some way. But I just want to make sure that you don't want to take that risk.
I don't want to take that risk.
Hocus does have an idea, though.
If Hocus has an idea, then say it. Because I just said all that to you.
There is one possibility, perhaps, but I don't know how dangerous it would be. For you or for her, or for any of us, for that matter. There is... A spirit has no specific volume. You will find spirit bottles that are varying sizes, and spirit tends to fill whatever that space is. It could be a bottle this big, it could be the size of a loaf of bread. But there is always, I should not speak in absolutes, there are usually a bit of space in a bottle that has a spirit in it. So what I could try to do. And I want to stress again how dangerous this could be. And this competitive is going to be very silly in its way. But if you shave off a piece from a block of cheese, if I were to hook a portion of you and feed it into the bottle with her, but that is very, very dangerous. I have never tried anything like this before.
Please try it.
I look at Hocus. I look at the bottle. I listen to the screaming. Do it.
All right, Hocus. Mechanically speaking, this is a gray area.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think we should do to determine whether there is an element of failure? Because right now, he just clicks his indulge vice. It's gonna work, right? Because he's 8. So how do we introduce an element of failure into this? Because I think this is an exciting opportunity to introduce some risk. Is it a guaranteed consequence by slicing a teeny bit of his soul off of him?
So the most he can reduce is what?
6.
Okay, he cannot reduce any more than that. Which
Nope.
leaves him with 2.
That's correct.
Then that's how many dice we take off of my attune roll, which puts me at 1.
And if that fails, then the bad things happen.
You probably wind up. I was going to say you wind up in the bottle with your sister, but I think that's a little more than a spirit bottle can handle. So, on a critical failure, not only do you get hooked, all of you, but the bottle explodes. And both you and your sister are out.
Okay, so let me be very clear about this. So regardless of what happens with the attune roll, he is going to indulge his vice and he's going to reduce his stress. So his stress reduction will then just be the mechanical benefit that he's getting from this. You will roll an attune roll, and if you get a 1, it will have the consequence. It'll have dire consequences. If it just fails with a 2 or 3, then there's some other element of it. If it's successful, then you successfully slice a little bit of his soul off to feed her, and he will recover eventually from that, right? It's not like a permanent kind of a thing, but he will recover eventually, and we'll just call it good. Is that what I'm hearing? Are you okay with that, Speedy?
A 1 in 6 chance that I turn into a ghost and die?
No, you don't necessarily. The body does not die immediately. Vessels bodies can be prepared as vessels for spirits to possess.
Right, but
and in some cases it's just possession. In other cases it's vampirism.
Right, but also the bottle explodes and my spirit goes fine.
Voldemort never recovered fracturing his soul, is what Mike says. I agree, Mike, but I'm not sure how to play it because we're in uncharted territory. And Phantom, you guys have done that a couple of times tonight. What's up, guys? Come on, stop this shit. No. It's your call, Sky. It's your call, Speedy. It's an interesting set of consequences. It's an interesting set of circumstances. You indulge regardless. And you get the benefit regardless, but the result of his attune roll is what is up in the air.
All right, we've talked about it long enough. I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna.
All right, excellent.
Now, how are we going to do this? Because I've got 3 pips in this thing. Are we just going to ignore We just go with the first die in the order.
We can either do that, or you can just roll one unless you want to push yourself, right? Unless you want to do all the other little things that you can do, push yourself, take a devil's bargain, offer me any other reason why you would get multiple dice. You would just roll one. You would just either roll 1d6, or you can roll your attune, and we'll just call it that. So let's do this one step at a time. Speedy, go ahead and roll Sky's Indulge Vice, and let's see how much of a benefit this actually provides.
Do I get any bonus dice for this?
Because this is a risky situation, yeah, take an additional one. I mean, you're taking an incredible risk. All right, so you've just indulged your vice. That additional die did not give you shit, which is good. So you take 4. You reduce 4. So, all right. So you reduce your stress by 4. Now, Hocus, you're starting with 1 die. Do you want to push yourself or take a devil's bargain?
Under these circumstances, I think Hocus would push himself.
Okay, so that's an additional 2 stress you're taking right there.
Which pretty much undoes my vice indulgence from before.
Yeah.
Well, it does and it doesn't, right? You've calmed yourself, you've centered yourself, you've refocused your energy, your chi enough so that you can take these risks without fear. That's the justification that I can see for Hocus being centered enough to be able to suggest this. So you get an additional die. So that's 2d6.
Okay.
Do you want a devil's bargain? You already have 1 laying out there on you, right?
Oh, I know.
Okay. If you'd like, we can make a suggestion, and this will be the last thing. This conversation about the devil's bargain, and then the subsequent roll and the result of that will be the last thing that we do in the session tonight. But I can offer it up to the table, and we can give you a suggestion of what you're going to get for your devil's bargain before you actually make the choice.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to the table. Anybody have any good suggestions what they think should happen to Hocus?
There was one from chat from Kayla which said that Lyra, or he would accidentally he would hook and pull out Lyra, and she would possess my body. Now, if this is devil's bargain for Hocus, it could be possess his body instead, or I possess Hocus.
So I don't have a problem with the devil's bargain actually being that set of circumstances, because that's something that Hocus, narratively speaking, would have an incredible struggle with, because that's a huge screw up, and he would want to fix that. He would want to right the wrong in the same way that Grin would feel badly upon reflection of killing somebody who was an innocent. Right? So this is a circumstance that I actually think plays incredibly well, and I think that that's a good one. So that's on the table. Does anybody else have any suggestions? Trent, you're more than welcome to suggest one yourself. I mean, this is your character.
I know.
Joff, Alex, any suggestions?
Well, again, it wouldn't directly affect Hocus, but it would really mess with things for the crew if Lyra was just set free.
Well, no, that makes a lot of sense, because again, the stress would be put on Hocus for making a screw up here, the mistake. Okay. That's a significant thing there. Absolutely. Right. But it's all about the negative effect that it's going to have on Hocus, the consequence that it's going to have on Hocus. Doesn't necessarily have to be negative and can be dealt with.
As a devil's bargain, though, I think that might be too strong. As something that is happening regardless of whether or not he succeeds.
Yeah. What if it was some point in the future, some undetermined point in one of the following 8 seasons?
Mike's idea of attracting all the spirits.
I like the idea of
or a spirit warden.
I like the idea of getting the notice of the spirit warden. The Dimmer sister one is also interesting too. But I think the Hocus gains the attention of a spirit warden, or gains the notice of a spirit warden. actually plays into an interesting subplot that I think that Trend has been thinking about with Hocus in general. So
That's a good one.
So I like your idea though, Joff, that she gets released in some way. So it sounds like what we've got so far is we've got Sky getting possessed by Lyra. We've got Lyra's spirit getting released. We've got attracting the attention of a spirit warden, not necessarily in a good way, for Hocus. Ari, do you have anything that you want to offer to add to the table? Okay.
I know that she can like ghost whisper. I don't know whether that would help tame at all in the situation if she's nearby.
I don't know that she would be involved in this conversation because
exactly. I mean, she's already gone off and
right, exactly. She's doing her own thing, and these two are off doing their own thing. Okay, I'm going to offer my own to this mix, and then we'll make a choice. Mike is suggesting that we do what we did last night, which is straw poll. I don't know if if you are willing to take the devil's bargain blind and then allow the straw poll for the next 5 minutes or whatever to determine the result. That's entirely up to you too. That was a really exciting moment for OC last night.
I know.
So,
I voted.
I'll bet you did, buddy. I'll bet you
I
did.
don't trust the chat. We've got a lot of Shroud people in here. They're just gonna vote against us.
Well, let's be clear. Trin and Joff were in chat last night, and they voted against Art. So
that's two.
So
There's a lot of people.
So Joff still has to do his downtime action, right? All of his stuff.
Yeah.
Eventually, yes. Yeah.
So what if we suspend this? Let him do his stuff. That'll give time for the straw poll to go through. We see what the result is, and then we come back and finish addressing this.
Okay, so but we're close to the end of the time right now for the session.
Well, fuck those.
Okay, I'm gonna make the final result. Then we're gonna need somebody to make a straw poll, and we'll do Joff's downtime actions real quick, or if they are quick. Oh, okay. Did he link it?
No.
Okay. Last one. Let me add the last one. There is a set of circumstances that begins to unravel Hocus's calm around indulging his vice.
Ooh.
So that there's a reduction in benefit. And until he addresses that circumstance, which will be made obvious, indulging vice has a lesser effect, essentially. So basically, a modification to, or essentially a reduction in indulging his vice until the circumstance. So are we deferring now, so that we can work on Joff, or are you going to accept it blind?
I've made my decision since.
Okay.
There are several members of the Shroud who are individuals that I would say
are jerks.
No. Well, there is jerking involved, but more of a longing to be downrange while they are going off like a fully automatic belt-fed Taco Bell sour cream gun. I will accept it blind.
Oh my God. Okay.
Oh wow.
Mike, set it up. Do it. Post it in chat. Let's do this. Okay. All right. Now that you've done all that, and it's going on off in chat, they can do this for the next 5 minutes. Roll your attune. That means that you're going for 3, right? Because you're getting 2 additional dice because you pushed yourself and took a devil's bargain. So your original 3 in chat, or your original 3 for your attune, are it's going to just fly. So just roll that. No position, no effect, no additional die. Just roll your 3, and let's see what the result is. Ah!
Okay.
Wow. RNG is really not your friend tonight. I'm just going to say that right now.
Or RNG is really loving the idea of this story element.
Oh, Jesus. Wow. Okay.
Everybody vote.
I love this, but I hate this.
Sorry, I'm
Oh,
voting in the straw poll. Sorry,
Yay.
results. Anyways, oh wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm liking how this is changing so far. Anyways, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at the straw poll. I'm
Also, her name is Lyra, not Lissa. Please, Mike.
Lissa was a character in a wonderful movie called Krull back in the 80s.
Yes.
Corral.
With the most ridiculous weapon ever. Oh, actually, the second most ridiculous. The glaive was the second most ridiculous pole or weapon ever. The sword from the Sword and the Sorcerer, the 3-bladed sword that shot
was-
2 of the blade.
Yeah,
That was pretty ridiculous.
but it did have Liam Neeson in it, which was awesome.
Of course, you would gravitate. No, Kroll did have Liam Neeson. That's right. I was going to say there was Lee Horsley. It was the star of the Sword and the Sorcerer. Anyways, we're off topic. Now, it's failed.
Mhm.
So as you hook him a little bit and you kind of slice, something goes wrong a little bit. You really kind of begin to pull his spirit out. Interesting. So the blade or the hook, as you were just trying to just kind of slice it, something goes horribly wrong. What is it like when you pull just for a second? You pull his spirit from his body. I mean, describe to me what that's like, and then we're going to talk about what Sky feels as a result.
If you've seen the movie Contact with Jodie Foster,
Of course.
when she's going through the wormhole thing and she starts getting, the variant permutations of her,
Mhm.
getting like these ghostly images that are getting kind of pulled out to different sides. It's sort of like that. But if you've ever had a hangnail that you've been like, I'm just gonna pull the cuticle a little bit, and then you've wound up just pulling a little bit too far and wound up gloving your entire forearm back to about that's about what it feels like. All over your body and all the way to the core, because we have all felt physical pain and we have all felt pain of the soul, and we know which is greater and easier to endure, or
Right.
difficult to endure. So the scream that comes off of him as he is half out and half in, still enough of him in his body to scream, that's probably going to be heard down the hall a bit.
Okay, so as you kind of pull him out and his ghost, his spirit begins to move out of his body, and you've hooked him, and that scream of pain comes out, you realize what you're doing, and you use the hook in a way and push it back in, right? You just kind of flip it and push it back in. And as you do that, a little chunk of him, his spirituality, his soul, comes off into the capacitor, and you're able to just kind of feed it into the bottle a little bit. And so that is the mechanical result of settling his vice, the circumstance. But he's caught off guard when he comes back into his body, and that scream erupts, and the entire brothel, and as Ari is indulging her vice, she hears a little scream off to the side and thinks somebody else is enjoying themselves. And Grin, I imagine that you are probably drinking pretty heavily, and you're just
you better fucking believe it.
you're raising your glass a little bit to acknowledge somebody's pain, right?
Yeah.
And Sky, as you just kind of come back into your body and you feel that peace, you feel a little off, and for just a second, you get a full sense of the ghost field and the spiritual world around you, and things are just a little tense and you're left shocked. You're left a little stunned, and so it's going to take a little bit of time for you to emotionally and physically recover from this, but eventually you do. It's not like taking a trauma where there's some element that is off. but from a narrative perspective, you don't ever want to do that again. That was something you had never experienced before. It was brutal.
Did it work? Did it work?
Muted.
Tren, did it work? You're muted.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Did we
no.
lose you? No, we can't hear you at all.
No.
Nope.
Timing. The timing.
Shit.
Hocus has gone completely silent.
Shit.
This poll, man.
Oh, no.
He'll be right back, I'm sure.
Okay.
Okay, so as a result of your downtime action, we can talk about that. The poll is getting interesting, by the way. The fact that the Dimmer Sisters are going to notice Sky really plays into elements of Sky's past that he has tried to ignore.
It plays into the one shot. The like premiere before the series even started. That was when we talked about the Dimmer Sisters. My God.
Okay. We can hear you now. So how does Hocus respond?
Well, he's going to look down at the bottle on the other end of the capacitor and see if listen, see if the sound has changed at all.
The screaming has stopped. It's now just a whimpering.
Oh.
It's now just, there's no solace, but there's not hunger.
So I'll disconnect that from the capacitor and hand it back, and it is what it is.
Thank you.
May we never have to do that again.
I certainly hope not.
You should rest.
I'm already on the ground. And into a room, I just kind of go to my knees. I just collapse on the bed sideways.
Okay.
And he leaves.
Wow. Okay. All right. We are 10 minutes over, so we're gonna end on one of your two downtime actions. Again, that was super intense, completely unexpected. I'm still processing how that's actually going to affect the game in a couple of ways, not just Hocus's Devil's Bargain, and which we're still waiting to see the result of. All right, guys.
Whatever it is, don't tell me. I'm not going to look. Don't tell me.
Don't look at the stream.
I'm not looking at the stream. That's what I'm looking at.
Pretty decided.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that this. Yeah. Okay. All right. I won't tell you then. But yeah. Wow. Okay. Great, guys. Let's do XP. Who wants to go?
I already fucked up enough. Let's do that.
All right. Let's start with you. So, Hocus, did you roll a desperate action?
I don't think so.
Nope. Okay. Challenge with knowledge or arcane power.
Yeah, I think I get 2 for that.
Absolutely. Both the bodies on the carriage, and then this particular circumstance as well. So awesome. Beliefs, drives, heritage, or backgrounds.
Yeah.
I think there's 2 there.
I would agree.
Okay. Excellent. Struggled with the issues of your vice or trauma.
No.
Are you sure about that?
Struggled with issues of my vice? I don't think so.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I indulged it, but that's not struggling with it. We've covered that.
No, I wasn't going to suggest that you were indulging it. What I was going to suggest was that the circumstances around Sky's Vice and you getting involved there really shook your calm, because you basically eliminated any positive result that came from you just indulging your vice. So you basically you were doing your ritual, and then all of a sudden, in helping Sky, you brought yourself back to the same state. And you risked your vice a little bit too, because that was one of the things that was on the table for the devil's bargain. So I would argue that you could get at least one out of that.
Okay.
Anybody at the table have a disagreement with it? Okay, cool. Okay, excellent. So we'll call that one. So that's 5 for you altogether.
Yes.
Okay,
cool. Who's next?
I'll go.
Sounds great.
So address the challenge with calculation or conspiracy. I think our interaction with the guards was pretty calculated.
Very much so.
I don't know. That's definitely one. I don't know if participating in what Ari did at the with us pretending to be the Shroud crew counts.
It was just a bit of drunken role play in the end, you know.
It was, but it was definitely enough of a circumstance where the crew as a party, or the crew as a crew, basically just it helped along. So yeah, I agree that you were very supportive on that. So absolutely, there was a level of calculation or generating a conspiracy there, while not successful, was a great attempt, right? So.
Mm-hmm. All right. Express beliefs, drives, heritage, or background. I mean, everything involving my sister is my background. But that might be more struggling with my vice.
I was going to argue that it was going to be struggling with your vice. That was the place. Was there an element of a drive to survive? Because this is something that you and I have talked about privately, about Sky ultimately always wants to survive, to be able to achieve his ultimate goal. And that was a lot of what tonight was that continuation of survival. Does that to you fit into your...
I would say so. Yeah. Us driving forward and trying to kind of ignore what had happened and just get us to somewhere safe.
Okay, excellent. With that in mind, then, that's going to be, I think, 4 altogether, between the 2 for the calculation or conspiracy, the 1 for beliefs, drives, heritage, and background, and then the 1 for the risk, the struggling with your vice, because that last, I mean, the risk you took was significant. So absolutely. So 4.
I would almost argue that I struggled with issues for my vice more than once, just because I said that all of this time Lyra had been calling out to me, or she had been screaming, and I had been putting it aside until now, and I had been trying to avoid it.
Okay. All right. I agree with that. So that's 2 then.
Cool. Shanks.
Okay, great. How about we go with Ari next?
Sounds good.
All
so, I didn't do any desperate actions.
Okay.
I did address a challenge with deception. In trying to convince the young soldier to come with us and using sway there.
Okay. Absolutely.
Express my beliefs, drive, or heritage. I did the whole let's go to this brothel that I know, and all of that jazz. So I guess that's 1 there.
Well, I'm sorry. That almost also plays into influence or deception or influence, because you knew that was the spot to go to be able to do everything you need to. So I could see it apply to either or. It's your choice. Because
well,
I
go
think
with the first one then, and then when it comes to heritage or background, maybe just the fact that I knew who the owner of it was, and
you also did some. There was also a bit of deception or influence around the soldier in kind of bringing him into the fold until you got to the brothel. So yeah, I think you get 2 for deception and influence, and I think you get at least 1 for drive, heritage, or background. And then
didn't struggle, just indulged.
Okay. All right. Awesome.
At least if there was any struggling, it was only of the enjoyable variety.
TMI. All right. So that's 3 for Ari.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And then lastly is Grin.
I think I had a bit of a drought this session. No desperate action. Technically, there was no violence this week.
Intimidation definitely applies in my head for violence when it comes to Grin.
Okay.
You intimidated the soldier.
Okay. Beliefs, drives, heritage, background didn't happen this week. And my vice came up in passing.
Well, hold on a second. Your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background. You struggled when I mentioned the contrast between the immediate murder or the immediate killing of the young soldier and the desire not to kill after the heat of action had been done and you had time to reflect.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
that kind of harkens back to Grin's. Yeah, that does harken back to his time as a soldier.
right.
But
I think you deserve at least 1 for that because when I raised it, you got immediately uncomfortable with it, and all of a sudden the character and the player all of a sudden became guilty. You felt guilty about that circumstance, so you deserve at least 1 for that.
Okay.
And
then vice. I mean, I had a drink. I don't think that earns XP.
No. Yeah. But you were offered alcohol and didn't attempt to just consume it all. You were using it in a circumstance where you were passing the flask back off.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't. So, I mean, if there was any motivation or struggle there for you, I could see that being, a struggle with your vice. But otherwise, it's entirely up to you. Do you think that counts?
I'm happy to take the XP, but I honestly don't think it counts.
Okay. All right. So what it sounds like is you got 1 for coercion or violence and 1 for beliefs, drives, heritage, and background. So that's 2.
I'm happy with 2.
Okay. Excellent.
Okay.
Real quickly, crew.
Crew XP, yes.
Yep.
So successful smuggling or acquire new content sources or contraband? I don't think so.
I'm going to argue that you guys successfully smuggled yourself into Silkshore at Ari's, at Ari's insistence, going to this particular place, the Scarlet Rose.
All right, I like it. Smuggling people counts.
Red District.
So that's 1. Contend with challenges above your current station. Mm-hmm. I'm going to argue yes at least once, given you face the Imperial Army.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that counts as 1. Your crew's reputation is professional. Did you bolster that reputation or develop a new one possibly?
I mean, in terms of reputation, I don't know how much of this is going to carry out, but I think we did act generally pretty professional.
We didn't kill as many people this week. In fact, I don't think we actually killed anyone this week. That is more professional than usual for us.
Unless our profession is killing people.
That's technically correct. Okay, so you get 1 for there, because that's technically correct. You did not kill one individual this week, and in fact, you saved the life of 1 individual this week by not killing the soldier. Okay, express the goals, drives, inner conflict, or essential nature of the crew.
Yeah,
you saved yourselves. I mean, so that's 1.
Mm-hmm. I think there was also some conflict there in how we were gonna deal with the kid, because Grin was threatening violence, and Hocus was like immediately like,
Yeah.
"No, that's not what I wanted to do."
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a second one. So that sounds like one for successful smuggling, one for current challenges above your station, one for bolstering your crew's reputation, and 2 for expressing goals, drives, inner conflict, or essential nature of the crew. So
We
5
leveled up
altogether.
again.
Congratulations. And we'll talk about that off stream. And now, with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Speedy. Thanks, guys.
Excellent. Dear God, oh my God, everything that happened today, I am so scared for what's gonna happen next. God, I love the show. Thank you guys for being here. Let's go around and we can do our hooks and plugs and get some thoughts on what you
Don't
thought
say
of
hooks. Don't say hooks.
Plugs is okay though, right?
Not for me. No. Oh.
Anyways. Speaking of you, Trendane.
I'm a top.
Not a bower bottom.
Don't bottom out on us, okay?
No. I mean, even when I'm just partaking of something that seems like it's a submissive sort of. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Still a top. Yeah. Anyway, like I said earlier, professional voice actor. Go and watch. Go and play the Beyond Skyrim Bruma mod.
What's Skyrim?
Skyrim? What is Skyrim?
No, we're not doing this again. We're not doing this again.
I didn't. He started it anyway. So I'm in that a lot, and
It's awesome.
it's okay. Yeah, sorry. And we're kind of moving on towards working on one of the next sections, which is Beyond Skyrim Elsewhere, which is where all of the Khajiit come from. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Anyway, so that's looking like it's going to be fun. Tomorrow, I will be over on Arvin Eleron's Twitch channel. We will be doing the Our Vocalists, where we will continue playing this horrible goddamn game, Phoenix Wright Trials and Tribulations, where I have to be this stupid French guy, giant French Madame Gandalf.
Speaking of giant French, my name is Madame Gandalf. You can catch me just about everywhere as Madame Gandalf. I am a streamer here on Twitch, variety from pub quizzes to cooking shows to a bunch of different games. And yeah, you can find me in many different areas of Twitch as well as my own, including NotSoSpeedRuns. So make sure you follow NotSoSpeedRuns, guys, if you enjoyed this goofy face. And speaking of goofy faces, Joff.
Wow, that hurt my feelings.
I love your face.
Hi, my name is Joff. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter as Owlbare. That's bear as in, not as in. I can't believe that's my thing.
Like a little dance.
Yeah. Hi.
Good
I also played Grin this session, and I tried to keep my mouth shut and stay out of trouble. More next week. Back to you, Speedy.
See, this is where we find out how much of a bad influence Sling is on him. When Sling is here, he can't.
God.
He can't stay out of trouble.
You're right. You're so right.
I miss Sling.
We all do. She will be back next week. For those wondering who this strange empty slot is below me with the amazing art of bald Natalie Portman that Joff made. All the art and overlay and everything are made by Owlbare. By the way, you should go follow him on Twitter for more like amazing art stuff because he's great. But I will give Johnny the floor to give himself some shout outs and get what he thought about everything that happened today.
You guys continue to surprise me each at the table, and now what I mean, I'm not talking about plot surprise. What I mean is, you guys continue to surprise me with the amount of subtle role playing that happens. We learned big things in little ways about each of the characters tonight, and so yet again, it's always a pleasure to be on this side because I'm watching just as much as everybody else is watching as you guys do your thing. And you guys gave me more stuff to be able to manipulate you with tonight, so I'm happy with that too. I am Johnny. Run the Video Store Cowboy channel. I'm also the GM for 6 and 20. Next Tuesday or potentially Monday, given if there's something that changes, but we're going to be launching a third crew. So I'll post something on Twitter and Twitch and blah, 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 blah. You guys can all check that out. And otherwise, I do tabletop like with these guys and a little bit of variety streaming on the side. So yeah, thanks guys.
Yeah, that's awesome. You should absolutely, if you enjoyed this show, make sure you go follow Video Store Cowboy and make sure you go follow Unmade Gaming as well. This
Screw
show,
that guy.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay. Oh.
you should go follow him just so you can go into his channel and do hashtag Shroud Sucks repeatedly. They're like all right,
Shroud
whatever.
sucks repeatedly.
Wow.
Well, I know there's at least two people on the
Anyways.
Shroud that Trend wants to have a conversation with.
Conversation.
But yeah, this game is this game is run on 2 soon to be 3 channels. So if you want to see more of Johnny doing his excellent DMing and more amazing role playing in this amazing world that he's created, go follow both of them.
No. Let's be clear. I didn't create this. You guys created it. I just poke you guys until you do really weird things.
And then we poke back harder.
It's gross.
You're just giving Tren so much ammunition. So much ammunition.
The way I
Let's
see it,
hope that they're not shooting blanks,
beautiful.
okay?
the way I see it, if
Oh,
you
yeah.
give Tren enough ammunition, he'll get like blocked up or something, and you can't
Good luck.
talk anymore.
Please
What
try.
kind of blocks? What kind of blocks?
Anyways,
All right, hold on a second. Hold on. Mike is reminding me that we should plug the wiki real quick. Do you want to plug the wiki and plug the contest?
Who?
yes. So there are a few other things that are involved with this show. This cross-platform series that we have. So we do have a wiki that we've created. So you can, if you missed out on previous episodes, you can keep track of all the lore, everything that has happened so far in the series, and get character descriptions and art and all that other good stuff. Yeah, I don't have a link for it right here, but if someone else wants to pull it up from somewhere to put in chat. We are also starting a giveaway for a copy of Blades in the Dark, this wonderful system that we are in. Oh God, look at it! It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. But so we previously did a giveaway during the last season, which was run through Gleam, where people could enter through Twitter stuff. This one is going to be a little bit different. So we are going to be doing a giveaway for people who make fan art of the show. So anything involving your favorite character, if you want to make that guy right there and show him up, because his art is all the amazing stuff we already use. You gotta beat him. He's allowed to enter, so be aware.
And if you want to make Trin happy, you do a Rule 34 thing between Hocus and other characters.
Not with Hocus. Not with it. That would be a bad scene.
Tren, yes. Hocus, no.
Friend, yes. Hocus, no. You want to
Listen,
get
so-
yourself hooked. You just go ahead and try anything like that with Hocus.
So any art involving
Challenge accepted.
Trendane and Unmade Gaming and Grimjack together will not be accepted as part of the giveaway, but it would be much appreciated.
I think it would win.
in job size. It's just an
You know.
immediate winner.
I'd buy that print.
Other body parts too.
Did
Sorry.
anyone find the wiki?
Anyways. Bless you.
What?
Bless you.
But unless anyone else has anything else that I'm obviously forgetting, I think that is all that we have for today. There seem to be a lot of people here in chat, so let's go ahead and send you guys off on a raid. Let's go find someone really quickly, because I never plan these things out well beforehand.
Even though it happens every time.
Literally every time. But I'm going to actually send you guys over to
What?
A wonderful streamer by the name of how do I pronounce this? Cien. I believe that's how it's pronounced. She's great though. She's local to New York, which is how I found her. Also a friend of like another friend of mine, Lanthios. So she's just really great. She's playing Fallout right now. So go ahead and we're gonna go ahead and show her some raid love. Let me put the link in chat.
Stop loving your book, Jeff. All right, that's done.
Oh my god, I love this book though.
Yeah, but you don't want the pages to start sticking together.
Oh, too late. Oh.
So we're gonna send a raid over to Ask Cien, and we're going to spam her chat a little bit with all the love that you have. If you have the sub only emote, the not so love, feel free to substitute that. I need to really update my command to use it too. But that stuff is in chat. Gonna drop her a host. Thank you guys so much for watching. I cannot wait for next week. Let's see you all next time. And as always, don't forget to take it slow. Bye.